In a play to keep success rolling, DC reaches across the aisle to bring on Marvel's most important storyteller of the modern era, Brian Michael Bendis. But does the aging wizard still have enough magic left to save DC from the infection known as 5G? Why didn't 5G happen?
5G in all the studies, LA Times, causes massive mutation and cancer.
I can't help myself.
What would 5G have cost DC? And how did 5G lead to the swan song of one Dan Didio?
Womp. Oh wait, I have a soundboard for that. Why am I making the noise?
Let me finish my freaking intro. All that and more on the finale of the DC Rebirth Deep Dive. Thank you for being here for it. Joining me as always, we've got Marco,
Celsius,
Tyler,
I'm out of breath. Sorry, guys.
and I'm Sean. Thank you for being here, whether you are live or in the future. Smash that like button. We are going to have a great time this morning. We're going to finish this fucking deep dive. That's what we're going to do. And I'm here for it.
down. Let's go.
Hell yeah.
And
I'm
this
ready to
seems like
learn.
this is like almost like a prequel deep dive, it seems like.
Yes.
To the 5G files.
That's right. That's right. Or
Which,
we've been
like-
working our way backwards.
Yeah, if you once we're done with this, you guys can just go right in and watch 12 hours.
You're completely right. And
Yeah.
and now that you said that, and thank you for saying it, I'm going to go ahead and grab a link to that, because I definitely think that if you have enjoyed this, and specifically this part that we're about to do, you will love the 5G files. In fact, I'm not going over all that. I'm not going over all that. So it will be sort of necessary to hear. It's like an event.
Mhm.
It's like an event. Like there is a tie-in series.
That's right. We're releasing the omnibus eye in the playlists.
I thought we were doing compendium first.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So make sure you go and hit that up, because it's crazy. There's so much to it. Now we haven't talked yet about the arrival of one Brian Michael Bendis.
Bendis is coming.
Oh.
Yikes.
Oh God. Yeah, Bendis has come. He has come, he has arrived, and it's $5, Marco.
Okay.
And
very good.
it was a big deal. The news of Brian Michael Bendis leaving Marvel Comics for DC was probably, at the time at least, certainly the biggest news story that happened in my time reading comics.
At the
Huge.
time, yeah, especially in terms of when it comes to like creatives, like that was Marvel's guy. Like he was essentially the Beyonder controlling the Marvel universe for my entire comic book reading life.
Yeah. I mean, as somebody who hadn't been familiar with his work outside of things like Power, and only knowing the impact that he had in terms of legacy of Ultimate Spider-Man, of being able to just draw on Marvel history, like that felt huge.
So you had never read his stuff before he came to DC, Marco?
Just literally just powers, and maybe like a trade of Ultimate Spider-Man, but there wasn't a
Wow,
connection.
okay.
Yeah. So, Bendis was that dude. And we all, if you were a fan of Marvel Comics at that time, during his heyday, you were reading Bendis comics. You sort of had to be, because everything he touched was like integral to the
Mhm.
storytelling of Marvel at that time. And it's not the way it is today, where everything feels so segmented. Marvel felt the way DC seems to feel right now, where almost every book is in some way a reflection of the status quo.
Yep.
Mm. What's happening, what's coming. Yeah.
Exactly. And I love that type of storytelling. I mean, even right now, you look at like Poison Ivy, a book that was as far removed from the general DC story as it could be, but now it's integrated because she's the mayor of Gotham.
Mm.
Yeah. Giving them time to shine.
Right. So and it puts a spotlight on that book, like Marco just said, giving the book time to shine. So if you haven't been reading it, you can, which is what I did. I jumped on Poison Ivy now. Um, and it just increases the feeling of, you know, camaraderie and not camaraderie, but togetherness, synchronicity within the books.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Bendis was really good at that. Um, there are pros to Bendis and cons to Bendis that I think Marvel fans are all aware of. We've all talked about Bendis speak. It's worse sometimes than others.
Yeah.
Mm.
But I think that it's fair to say, for fans of Bendis' style of writing, he had way more hits than misses from his debut with Ultimate Spider-Man in the early 2000s all the way through, I would say, the early 10s.
Yeah.
And then after that, I think you can start to see the quality level, the consistency level.
Once the events stopped happening, once actually, I would say like Dark Reign, post Dark Reign, when things kind of recoalesced into a normal status quo, that's where that status quo made Bendis' stuff feel stagnant, I feel.
Uh
Like post Siege, I guess.
yeah, I mean, he just wasn't really the architect anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
And now he was writing stuff like, I mean, I think it was a little bit later, but like Guardians of the Galaxy,
Kitty
which,
Pryde on the team and thing. Yeah.
yeah, which was notably not a great seller at all.
Mm.
Um, and Bendis's power from a sales standpoint was waning. You know, they were paying Bendis a lot of money at
Yeah.
Marvel.
And no
Yeah.
Bendis tax either. Hickman has a tax on his books. That was standard cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, he had bad PR at the time, because coming out and going to DC, he was the guy who did Civil War 2.
Mm,
Like, so like his star had sort of fallen. He still had the legacy, he still had the history. It was huge of a huge movement, but it did feel like waning.
yeah. Yeah. It just seemed to me like he had done everything there was to do. He had written just about everybody. His time on X-Men is controversial, but for me, it wasn't good. I didn't like it. And I think he probably could have done a really good X-Men series had they not been in the weird foxhole. And by
Mm,
that I mean, the Fox deal that caused Marvel to put the X-Men on ice in comics. Um, I think he probably could have written an X-Men run that I would have loved, but that's not what happened. And so by the time Bendis exited Marvel, I was pretty ready for that to happen.
mm.
yeah. Yeah. You didn't need to see his name on a title.
No.
I, I was pretty much of the mindset too, where it's like I want to see him play in a different sandbox
Mm,
at this point.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I actually went back because we're talking about an era in which the Comics Pals existed. So I went back and listened to our initial conversation
yeah.
about, yeah, about Bendis's exit. And so
Mm.
this is November 7th, 2017 was when that
Wow.
announcement was made. And we became a show that year, I believe.
Oh, what
Or
were my thoughts on the
maybe
podcast?
unfortunately, this is PT,
Yeah.
pre-Tyler. We were generally positive about the idea of his move. In fact, the person who wasn't is well, no longer here, but there are a lot of people no longer here. Phil, if you guys are aware of Phil.
I could
Oh,
see that. Yeah.
Yeah, he
makes
was
sense.
not particularly excited.
Was it announced at that point what title he would be on?
At the time in which we had that conversation, it was, yeah.
Oh, so I can imagine that makes more sense. Yeah, Superboy.
Yeah. Um so the Hollywood Reporter, they're the ones who got the scoop, I guess. But really it came from DC themselves. Well, Vulture in a combination with DC, tweeting out that Bendis was imminent. The deal was at the time described as a multi-year, multifaceted deal. Um, Bendis himself took to social media to say that it was real and that it was happening. Um, Bendis was Marvel's golden boy. He created Jessica Jones, Miles Morales, Riri Williams. Two out of the three of those Marvel has had a lot of success with. And frankly, all three of them have been represented as core characters outside of comics. Each one of them has some kind of imprint beyond comics named after them. Jessica Jones had her show. Miles, of course, has the movies, and Riri had a show as well. It's a high level of success for one guy to have.
Yeah, and I can
Eh,
see DC wanting him because of that.
Yeah.
Still had the influence.
I wonder, especially because this is a guy who's known to, like, he created those characters, right? If DC is in a place where their future is potentially creating new characters, maybe you want a guy who can make new characters stars.
Mm. That makes
Like,
a lot of
even
sense.
besides the point of, like, it's fucking Bendis. He writes damn Adventures for 15 years or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
So what Tyler just said has never been explicitly confirmed, but I have long held that idea in my mind as well. That Bendis coming on was a really good opportunity. Not that Dan Didio is the person who poached Bendis, but certainly at this time his vision of 5G is formed. It's happening in his mind, and Bendis is the perfect guy to spearhead that kind of initiative, especially when you consider some of the people we're going to discuss later and what their future with DC looked like around the same time.
I mean,
Go ahead.
I'll say Bendis does create one of the more famous new characters DC at the time, Ragu.
Love him. Love him or hate him. Sticking power.
I think Sean has a distinct opinion on one or the other.
Right.
In that
Oh, I do. Oh, I do. And we're going to talk about that. So at first, it wasn't known what Bendis was going to do at DC. We just didn't know. But we knew, well, we had a few ideas, I guess you could say, as to why he left. Bleeding Cool put up a couple of articles about this subject, and the first one dropped the same day as the announcement was made, and it essentially goes over the reasons why um, Bendis left and the inside baseball scuttlebutt. So here we go. Quote from Bleeding Cool Rich Johnson. But first, what was going on with Bendis at Marvel? He was writing Jessica Jones, Guardians of the Galaxy, Defenders, Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2, Invincible Iron Man, and Infamous Iron Man. He had written the Civil War 2 crossover event, but he had deliberately stayed well away from Secret Empire. His books didn't cross over with the big event, and Guardians only did when he left. However, his books weren't getting the big numbers like they used to, and a number of them were subject to being later than usual. His contract was up, the likelihood of getting a raise was low. The Marvel Comics Creative Committee, of which he played a strong part, no longer had any influence on the films. after Kevin Feige at Marvel Studios stopped reporting to Ike Perlmutter, but to Disney instead. Bendis, who wrote the first of the Marvel end credit scenes with Samuel L. Jackson as Nick Fury in Iron Man, was no longer a part of that mix. So I'm going to pause real quick. That's an important fact. The
Oh, yeah.
Marvel Studios Creative Committee was formed really early on. That was one of the first things that Marvel Studios did because Kevin Feige and company identified that they weren't the ones who knew best how to put a cinematic universe or a shared universe of any kind together.
It didn't exist in film, really.
Right.
Yeah.
It would be the creators of these stories and the guys who are used to play in a shared sandbox like this who would know best how to do it. And who better than Bendis? If you go back to 2008 when Iron Man came out, and you have to imagine this creative committee started it slightly before that.
Mm-hmm.
Bendis was the hottest writer in comics, other than Jeff
Yeah.
Johns. One A, one B.
Yep. And who, just for context, because this is news for people in the chat, who else was a part of that? Do you remember, Sean? Was Brubaker?
Yeah, yes, it was.
Yeah.
It was really a lot of the guys who were people who had Hollywood, like feet in Hollywood,
Yeah.
but also feet in comics. So guys like Brubaker. I don't know. I think Fraction. I was Vaughn a part of it. It was a lot of that.
Yeah.
That group.
That ilk. Yeah.
Yeah.
White dudes.
Yeah, well, yes, that is fair. But that was a big deal for Bendis. You know, Bendis wrote the Ultimate Spider-Man video game. You know, he loved being a part of all that stuff, and that got taken away. And then there was New York Comic Con 2017. There was a Marvel Comics Writer Summit there. And I'm going to dive back into the article now. We mentioned how the issue of increased diversity of Marvel Comics and how to deal with negative reaction towards that was a significant aspect. I'm told that Bendis, creator of Miles and Riri Williams, had quite the disagreement with David Gabriel, whose interview with Milton Grepp for ICV2 regarding diversity at the publisher needed repeated clarifications. What Rich is referring to is a 2017 interview that dropped in March, in which David Gabriel said that the reason for the sales slump was that, quote, people didn't want any more diversity and, quote, didn't want female characters.
And for somebody like Bendis who pushes for that actively in his books, that probably rubbed me the wrong way.
Yeah.
Now, people might feel that David Gabriel's words were taken out of context. And I think there's a lot more nuance to what David Gabriel said than just the headline. But this is a direct quote from the conversation. He was asked, why did those tastes change? Okay. And he said, I don't know if that's a question for me. I think that's a better question for retailers. What we heard was that people didn't want any more diversity. They didn't want female characters out there. That's what we heard, whether we believe that or not. I don't know if that's really true, but that's what we saw in sales. We saw the sales of any character that was diverse, any character that was new, our female characters, anything that was not a core Marvel character, people were turning their nose up against. That was difficult for us because we had a lot of fresh, new, exciting ideas that we were trying to get out, and nothing new really worked.
It's hard.
That's tough. That's tough to read if you are in the demographic of people that David Gabriel is talking about. That's tough to read if you're a creator who's in the demographic of people. And it's tough to read if you're a creator whose entire legacy rests on the idea that you've been a champion of those kinds of characters.
Yeah, yeah, and you know the business reality of it isn't necessarily stemmed in that the we need to, push the diversity or the wokeness is bad. It is there's a history to these characters, and unfortunately, that history is it is white. It is heterosexual. It is not right the agenda that would be pushed. And I don't say agenda to be charged as much as it is, it's not the directive that was being pushed at the time. And so I think you have to sort of take it that way. You have to kind of make that separation. And it sucks because that is an opportunity for individuals, for people, for a flavor of uh, comics. But unfortunately, if the sales aren't coming through, it's hard to justify.
Yeah. Yeah. And I guess not that this is the point of the deep dive, but real quick, because I do think it's important because DC expressed similar thoughts. We
Yeah.
read Dan Didio say not as charged language, but similar things about the reaction to DCU and some of the diverse moves that DC had made, and how Rebirth was sort of a reaction to that on some level. But the thing about David Gabriel that makes this statement particularly painful to read is that David Gabriel's position at Marvel is it's changed, but senior vice president of sales
Yeah.
and marketing. So when I read a word that comes out of David Gabriel's mouth, I feel like I'm reading marketing. I always feel like that.
Mm.
So what message should I receive from what he is saying? The message that I receive is that this is not said to me. This is a dog whistle said to the people who are angry at Marvel about the things he's talking about. What I read this as is, hey, don't worry. We know you're mad about these things, and we're fixing it. We're changing it.
Whatever is coming out of his mouth is a sales pitch.
Exactly.
Mm. Mm.
Exactly.
And I guess it's unfortunate that there are two camps. There's a few camps, I guess, that pick up on that signal, right? It's the camp that says, "Yeah, that's right. Diversity is bad and is what's destroying comics." And then there's another camp that might say, "Okay, cool. I can appreciate that Kamala's here. I can appreciate that Riri's here, but honestly, get me back Carol and get me back Tony."
And even more, I would say even more rigid than that, like fuck Carol, I
Mm.
think was a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so much of the backlash that the character received from core fans of comics, not films, started at this time.
Mhm.
It was so much like, no, she's Miss Marvel. What are you talking about?
Right, right, because
Yeah.
people still wanted the OG Captain Marvel back.
You gave her that lesbian haircut, like that shit. It was rough back
Totally.
then, dude.
Yeah, you're completely right. We just got a mini bomb from Atomic Bucks. Thank you so much, Atomic Hound, the man, the myth, the legend, the living legend. Regardless of content, Bendis' arrival signaled that Didio had won the DC Civil War and things were going to be run his way. That was a bad vibe and started a spiral that lasted well after he left. Stay calm, pals, and dive on.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks, Sam.
Thanks so much.
yeah,
And
for
we
sure.
we had some earlier super chats too. I don't know if you want to just knock those out while we're here.
I don't yet.
Okay.
Victor Giovanni said something that I think is extremely important. The 2010s were a valid, interesting experiment in, quote, are we leaving money on the table by being so white and straight? The answer was no. It may sound shitty to hear what Victor said, but Victor is right. There's no doubt in my mind that Victor is right. There was a harsh backlash to all of the pushing for diversity in comics.
Ooh, don't say those words in that sequence.
I know, right? And publishers learned their lesson. They got smacked on the hand by their core fans. and they learned that they can't do that way. They can't push diversity overwhelmingly on the readership.
It was corporatized diversity as a wave,
Yeah.
not integrated in any kind of. I'm not saying you gotta like immunize your readers first, you know what I mean? Like give them a small dose here, a small dose there, but
Kind of do.
it was a bit of a. They threw him in the ice bath right away. They got shocked.
Yeah, exactly. Robert, talking about wanting to sponsor a Bendis Daredevil book club. That would be incredible, dude. Let's shit, Bendis Daredevil 26 through 50 and 56 through 60. That's
It's the stuff we didn't read, I think.
yeah, 24. That's what,
25.
30 issues?
25 plus 4. Yeah, about 30.
What's the
It's like 25 for 100, I think it was. Like rough.
125, you mean, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. For the yes, for the what was it? The 30 issue? Yeah, yeah. Is that
Yeah,
what it was we talked about?
some shit like that.
Hold on. I wrote it down somewhere.
Also,
Yeah.
if you're on the Discord, you can ping us too.
Yeah, yeah,
we can hash
he
that out,
actually did.
Oh,
We'll
okay.
talk about that more with you later, Robert.
yeah.
But yeah, so diversity and Marvel's response to it was something that Bendis had a big problem with. And according to Rich, they had a verbal disagreement at New York Comic Con at the Writers Summit. David Gabriel and Bendis did. Returning to the article, quote, that there was a decision made to give the title, called simply Spider-Man, to Peter Parker rather than the current Miles Morales, which would become Miles Morales Spider-Man again, a battle Bendis thought he had previously won for Marvel Legacy.
Mm.
So if you'll recall, there was a period of time in which Brian Michael Bendis and I believe Sarah Pacelli were working on a title called Spider-Man, and it was starring Miles, and then that got shifted.
Was
Go ahead.
Was the plan with Bendis to make Miles the Spider-Man of the Marvel universe?
No,
This was still pre-Civil Secret War, right?
Just to give it's post, but just to give him a level of prominence that would rival Peter's. And it's fucking stupid, right? Like let's really think about this. It's fucking stupid that you would need to take the Spider-Man series title and give it to Peter when Peter's titles always have an adjective.
Oh, that's true. Yeah.
That's how deliberate of an attack this was. I'm not saying it was anti-Bendis.
I see the
but
distinction.
It was like amazing, spectacular, the friendly neighbor. You can go on and on. I don't know if I can remember, and I'm sure it's happened. Don't try to like internet me, but like I'm sure it's happened. I can't remember a time other than this book where Spider-Man, Peter Parker, had a title that was just called Spider-Man, and that's it.
Was this this wasn't the one that J.J. Abrams' kid was writing, right?
No,
that was later on.
No.
Okay,
that was way later on.
It was around this time.
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah, it just wasn't this. But yeah. So Bendis said, "Fuck it, I'm out of here." And allegedly, he was offered a seat at their, DC Films, DC television table. Which again was something that he lost at Marvel.
It feels very was it lunchroom? Hey, you don't got a place to sit? Come over here. Come join us right here.
DC trying to make fetch happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And okay, so context. So what year was this? 2017, you said?
Yes.
Yeah.
So we're in the Snyderverse at this point,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yeah. Absolutely.
Is the appeal that he gets to potentially also join them in that sandbox they're building?
That was the idea.
Mm.
And I think we know in retrospect that that didn't really
Oh
happen.
no! Oh no! It did not.
The only thing that came from that idea was we got a Naomi show, which was, the one major character that, well, other than fucking Ragu, that Bendis created over at DC.
He did
Yeah.
Teen Lantern too, who was pretty, well, at least the one, she's more active than Naomi in the Green Lantern comics at this point.
Oh, yeah, you're right. You're right. Rami Darwish with a $5. You guys should montage New 52, Rebirth, and 5G into one epic video.
That's
Alright,
was it like 40 plus hours or something?
I might need to render that one for a while.
Yeah.
I kind of want the views of you guys having to jump through
it's
those.
the playlist.
Yeah. But yeah, there is a playlist. I shared the 5G files compilation, so you guys can tear that shit up. JetX with the 5 spot. 1, DC just announced Poison Ivy by Wilson, Deluxe Edition Volume 1. That sounds sick. I saw it. Looks great.
Cool.
2, y'all will be my background noise while I'm getting this paper done. Awesome.
Let's
3,
go.
Bendis came.
Yes.
Thank you, Tyler. I left that open space for you, brother.
Good luck on that paper. You're gonna crush it. Lock in. We're here right with you.
And you can always just go to ChatGPT and just have them write the paper for you, right? That's what kids do these days.
They
True.
do. They do. They even allow it.
Really?
In some instances, they're like, look, if you want, just make sure you're citing the right things and all that kind of stuff. It's
Damn.
kind of wild.
And then there was also the factor of Bendis's running buddies. Bendis, like Tom King, like Jeff Johns, is known to have a stable of artists that love working with him. And when you're talking about that, you're talking about Alex Maleev, you're talking about Sarah Pacelli, you're talking about Caselli, you're talking about Romita, you're talking about Coipel. You're talking about a lot of the heaviest hitters of this era. And several of them would leave Marvel to go with Bendis. Let's not forget, John Romita Jr. was one of Bendis's primary artists during his tenure on Superman. Alex Maleev jumped ship and did Event Leviathan with Bendis.
He did Checkmate too, I believe, right?
And I believe Checkmate. I think you're right about that.
Which was a very good book, actually.
I agree. So and David Marquez, as I think, also went over as well, if I remember correctly. So there were certain artists who did follow Bendis. So Marvel lost a lot.
Yeah.
But there is a factor to Bendis's leaving that I think is worth saying. And that is the fact that his books were not selling the way that Marvel was paying him to make them sell. Bendis was probably the highest paid writer. I don't know that for a fact, but it's got to be the case that he was the highest paid writer at Marvel at the time.
At Marvel? Well, it has to be.
Probably, yeah, probably.
And if that same guy isn't your architect anymore, he's not willing to play ball with your current event, Secret Empire, and the books that he's working on aren't necessarily lighting shit on fire from a critical or commercial standpoint, and the call is coming from across the aisle that they want this guy and they want to pull up the Brinks truck, I don't know that Marvel made a mistake letting him go.
I don't think Bendis made a mistake leaving.
I agree.
If your star is dwindling and you have a chance of reigniting that somewhere else, even from like a monetary level alone, fucking do it. Get the bag.
Yeah.
But creatively, I can see the reason to want to try and reignite that fire too.
Yeah. And Last Young Renegade makes a good point too, that Matt Fraction and Kelly Sue DeConnick also did make the jump. And Matt Fraction gave them with Steve Lieber, the Jimmy Olsen series, which was pretty like that was pretty beloved, actually.
Yeah, he pulled a Kirby, literally leaving Marvel to go write a Jimmy Olsen comic.
Yep. But there was one more reason that Bendis decided to leave that he says is the definitive reason why he made the choice.
Mm.
And that is to work on Superman. This is a direct quote from Bendis himself. I was in town for my brother's wedding and I went to the library, which was so important to me growing up, and I saw the Superman display. It was a flood of impressions and Cleveland connections. While looking at the Superman artifacts, I realized I had not climbed the DC mountain, and I needed to. I just had a landmark birthday, his 50th, and I had lost a lot of weight, and I was thinking about what else I could do to scare myself. What could I do next? DC was coming at me pretty hard with offers that were hard to resist, but it was not until I walked into the library that everything came together. I remembered how much I connected with Superman, how I was an artist during the 1988 Superman convention in Cleveland. Somehow, I did not know about the exhibit. When I walked in and saw it, I felt like the library was my own personal museum, like I needed to see and walk through. I then realized I had to take DC up on their offer. It was so head-turning that I really could not refuse.
I mean, if your thing is writing superheroes
Yeah.
and you haven't written Superman yet, and the opportunity comes where you can not only write Superman, but write the title Superman, do it.
Yeah. And it feels like, it's what you were saying earlier, the contracts going out, the sense of control there is waning. You got a foot out, right? That's an easy incentive, easy push.
It's like you're at a shitty job that you're already thinking about leaving, maybe, and you know you're not going to get a raise anytime soon, and a better job calls, fucking take that shit.
It's easy, dude. Yes. Yeah, what's your dental like?
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, by the way, we're at 3 out of 10 on our goal for the GOAT game, and today, I don't feel like playing the GOAT game. I feel like playing the worst of all time game,
Woke
the
Oh
game.
Rote game.
shit.
So if we get to 10 out of 10 on that goal, we are going to talk to you about the worst hero or villain in Marvel's history, or Marvel or DC's history.
Man, you got a little bit of salt in you today.
Yeah.
Your cortisol levels are spiking. Careful.
Stay out of my way. But yeah, so Bendis arriving at DC was a big deal, and DC put a lot of money behind it. We've made a lot of jokes about Bendis coming. Those were
Nope, it's too late. We missed it.
valid. They put
Sorry, comedy's timing.
they put ads in their books for Bendis's arrival, which were pretty cool. But then they also actually had a TV commercial. There was a TV spot
What?
teasing Bendis's arrival. Yeah, if you want to see it, actually, I've got a link to it. If you want to check it out, I'll put in the show chat so that everybody can look at it.
And the whole Bendis is coming was a play on the Kirby is coming stuff from the 70s.
Yes, and so DC really touted this as the biggest talent acquisition since then, since
Which
Kirby jumping ship.
what did Kirby do when he came to DC? Fucking all of the New Gods.
Right, which
Dark
is
Side. Pretty much the one of the foundational backbones of the DC universe.
Literally created created the like start of a universe.
The little skeleton that runs the DC universe, Source Wall,
Right.
all that stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. He did so much, and I think DC probably assumed there would be a Bendis effect that was similar. And at first, yeah, there was.
Sure.
There definitely was. It was exciting for Bendis to arrive at DC. It felt special. It really did. And even in retrospect, with what we know came out of it, his arrival felt special. He jumped on board with Action Comics 1000. He had, I believe, a 10-page story in that. And then that kicked off his time as the head of the Superman line. He wrote Action, he wrote adjective lists, and he wrote Man of Steel, which was a,
Hmm.
I believe, 6-issue miniseries. Very similar to what John Byrne did, where he kind of came in with that title and
Yeah. Okay.
reinvigorated that character.
That was the
So
so he did Action 1000, then Man of Steel was the mini, right? And that
yeah,
led to the actual Superman titles. Okay.
Mhm.
Man of
yep.
Steel is the Rogozal bit, right?
Yes, yeah, that's where you're getting a lot of that origin. But all 3 series,
Involve him, right?
yeah, they
Hmm.
all involve him. They all involve essentially the same stories.
As they should. Great character.
Now, I've gone back and I suffered through reading some of this era of Bendis's stories. And I say this as somebody who adores Brian Michael Bendis as a human first, because I think he's a tremendous person.
Good dude.
And as a creator, he changed my life. His stories, his comics changed my life. But god damn, did I fucking despise his tenure at DC.
And previous to this, Sean, you had just, from my understanding in the previous episode, this is a deep dive, you personally have really just started getting into Superman.
Not really. Like
Yeah.
I tried. I liked the Jeff Johns, Gary Frank stuff from the 2000s, but I didn't
Okay.
read all that. And then I didn't like the New 52 Superman at all.
Sure.
Nothing of it. And then this was the only other time that I tried the character was
Oh,
when Bendis came.
you
Right.
weren't there for Rebirth.
No.
Okay. So for me, once the New 52 Superman died and we had, DILF Superman in action with John and the Rebirth era, that's when I got into Superman as a character. I'm like, oh, this shit is rad. I love this stuff. So me freshly being into the most famous superhero of all time and finally finding my footing, and then one of my favorite, if not favorite writer, coming to write that character, I'm fucking hyped. I'm excited. He's coming, so am I.
Right?
I didn't have the there we go.
There it is.
So I was really excited for this. And knowing it was Rice, right? That was joining him in the initial stuff. Even Rice.
It was multiple artists, but
Hmm.
yeah, he was one of them.
Yeah. I was excited, and as I read them, progressively less so.
Kind of, yeah, burnt on them, I imagine. It looks like Fabok, Hughes, Sook, Reese, whole bunch of
Oh,
people.
Sook is one of his
Lamita,
guys. Yeah.
yeah, he had a who's who. He had everybody on retainer working on these Superman books.
Bendis Brigade.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Um, and I don't think they were good. I just don't. I don't know why. I don't know why Bendis's voice
Mm.
as a writer didn't jive with the character. I think for me, I tend to prefer Bendis at street level. I don't look at his events as not street level. In the sense that yes, Secret Invasion involves aliens, but the majority of that shit just takes place on Earth in the Savage Land and stuff like that. Like, it's not that cosmic or spacey. He brings that stuff down to our level.
Yeah.
And I think that was one of the things that Bendis did best. But I don't think that worked with Superman.
Mm.
I wish we had more of a suit like Kale. If Kale were here, he could really nail down why Bendis didn't work on Superman beyond whether his writing was good or not.
Mm.
I think Bendis made 2 huge swings, like pretty early on in his Superman run, and that was kind of retconning or recontextualizing Krypton's demise with Rogozal, which I think rubbed people a little the wrong way. The whole destruction of Krypton is something every writer kind of goes to, to get into the book, and then he kind of, instead of making it an issue of like Kryptonian society, it was just one dude who was pissed off, and I think that kind of, I remember that being some of the discourse, and then later on he fucking reveals Superman's identity.
Mm.
there were more sins. The sins of Bendis is the next bit of this, because there were some sins and things that Bendis did that really upset people.
Mm.
And, you know, he gets a lot of flack for fucking Rogolzar, aka Ragu, one of my least favorite villains of all time. The most basic, uninteresting design I have ever seen for a villain who's supposed to be a major antagonist.
I liked it.
And he is such a whiny fucking baby, dude. He's so annoying. Even in those earliest issues, he's just bitching. And I'm not, to this moment, sure why he didn't like Kryptonians.
Was
He's
he
just
Kryptonian?
No, I don't think so. But he had this hatred for Kryptonians, and they reveal why, but like, it just, I didn't give a fuck. I didn't care at all. And there is something that Bendis gets a bad rap for that's not exactly true. Ragu did not actually destroy Krypton, if I remember correctly.
Oh, there was another reveal. It was Jor-El.
It basically Bendis is saying, look, Krypton is destroyed for the reasons you think it was, but also
Yeah.
there were these other things happening. So he doesn't completely upend the origin, but he does add to it in a way that I don't think it really needed to be added to.
Yeah.
Wasn't maybe like relevant or I guess additive.
And he retconned Jor-El to be a bad guy.
Well, that was already in the happening, because Jor-El was Mr. Oz. And
Oh, I forgot about Mr. Oz.
yeah, that was introduced at the jump of Rebirth. And he was empowered by Dr. Manhattan or brought back by Manhattan, some shit like that. So it's all stuff that's like, that was largely hated, you know, and rejected by the audience. And I have to imagine that was a shock for not just Bendis, but for DC.
Yeah, they put all this behind a guy, and then they're like, "Oh, this is what people don't like this." Uh-oh.
Uh-oh.
And what does DC like to do? Hard pivot. You know,
at this
reboot.
time.
It's not working out. Reboot.
Start it over.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's like you know how they're paying like AI developers like millions of dollars in like
Not
salary
anymore.
and retainers and stuff. Yeah, exactly. Not anymore. Yeah. Yeah, fucking Sora's out the door and they're like, actually, was this a good investment in the long term?
Yeah.
Whoops.
Yeah.
And you know, you talk about an investment, dude. DC gave Bendis everything he could have possibly wanted. They gave him the character he wanted, they gave him the artist he wanted, which means they had to they had to pay these artists and bring them on board. A lot of them were artists that weren't necessarily under DC's employ at the time. So they went and got all these artists. They bought and brought on Jinx World, all of Bendis's Jinx World stuff, because Bendis was pissed off that he felt like Marvel did not do enough to get those books sold through Icon. Icon was created. That was a line that Marvel created to make Bendis happy. To make Bendis happy, to make Fraction happy, to make these writers happy who wanted to do more non-Big Two stuff and were trying to leave.
And this is at the DC. That's when like Bendis got to do like cover as a book, right?
Yeah. He did. There were certain books that he did through the Jinx World imprint that moved from Marvel's Icon to DC, and everything was then housed there. So your Scarlets, your Powers, all that stuff was then underneath this banner. They let him do Wonder Comics. That was Bendis's imprint under DC, where they let him bring back the Wonder Twins, which was pretty crazy.
That was a good book too.
I remember people loving that.
There was Amethyst, right?
Yes, Princess of Gemworld.
Yep. So you know, they did everything they could do to make this guy happy.
Yeah. Which those books too, I felt like had his typical Portland, Oregon kind of crew on those books too.
Yeah.
Young
100%.
Justice was part of that.
Yes. Yep. But it didn't work. You
Yeah.
know, they let him do an event, the event Leviathan,
That's right.
which
Yeah.
I was insanely excited for because I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, Bendis is Superman, not it. But if
No.
you're talking to me about a conspiracy, if you're talking to me about Lois Lane doing reporting on a
Yeah.
fucking deep conspiracy, this is what Bendis did best at Marvel.
And to be fair, his Lois is really good. He writes a damn good Lois Lane.
It just
Yeah.
didn't work.
And
That event sucked.
they even gave him Legion of Superheroes,
They gave him the Legion.
which they don't ever touch.
Event Leviathan was when I figured out that there was nothing here for me. Because the whole event was designed around a villain that no one gives a fuck about. Not even a villain, a hero turned villain, a Manhunter.
Yep.
I thought Manhunter was a generic title. I didn't know there were specific Manhunters other than the Martian. Who gives a fuck?
I thought it was a woman.
I don't even know if it was or wasn't. I don't remember anymore, and I'm not going back and reading that. That was so disappointing.
Yeah, and it had Maleev too, which is like, oh,
Yeah.
there's a team right there. And also, it was Bendis writing Batman, and previous to that, he didn't really touch him outside of the Walmart book, Batman Universe.
I'm not even sure if did the Walmart book even exist by that point. I don't even know.
What year are we in?
2018,
Event Leviathan was 2018, I believe.
Okay, then it's either just starting or okay, yeah,
2019. It ran from 2019 to 2020.
Okay.
yeah. And the Walmart book was 2019.
Hayden's Hideout dropping 10 on us. Woke game and wheel spin. Thank you so much, brother. We'll get that wheel spin in a little bit. We got well over 100 of you rocking with us. Thank you so much for that. Make sure you hit the like button. If you want to contribute to the stream today, super chats are open. Of course, we've got the PayPal link in there if you feel like you would rather contribute that way and circumvent the cut that YouTube takes. You guys are so generous to us. And then YouTube says, hey, be generous to me too.
We did get one earlier on PayPal.
Oh shit! I
Did we
missed
really?
it.
It was on PayPal because you can't really see it unless you check the email.
Yeah.
But it was man. The only thing is PayPal only gives us the
Is the government.
actual name.
What's the first name?
Dakota.
Oh, that's Spiral. And what's
Okay,
the
yeah,
dollar
yeah.
amount?
Yeah, 1082, 1080.
Thank you, Spiral. I appreciate that so much, Spiral. Thank you so much. And I don't think it's going to matter, but I would count that towards the GOAT game if we were.
Yeah, 100%.
Because that's cool of you. And by the way, just so you guys know what Spiral just did, that puts way more comics bucks in our kitty because we circumvent the YouTube cut.
In our kitty?
Yeah. You never heard of that?
I'm not putting anything in my kitty.
Oh.
Whoa, hey, oh.
Oh, shit, okay. I like those yellow super chats. We owe 4 wheel spins now.
Whoa, went from none to 4.
Common Sense with the $9.99. When you had Bendis on your channel, I wanted to ask him about his explanation of what happened to Bart Allen. You think that is unprofessional of me to ask? Bendis clearly didn't read Kid Flash Lost like Williamson. Look, you, Common Sense, don't have a responsibility of professionalism. If we have Bendis on and you want a super chat to ask him a question, right? You can do that.
Yeah.
I think, and I would have asked that because that doesn't feel offensive. It feels like, hey, what were your intentions with this character?
Yeah.
But there are I would not of my own brain ask Bendis that just because it could feel like you're asking me why what I did sucked, and I don't agree with you.
Also, it's just like yes or no. We're okay, cool.
Yeah,
exactly. But yeah, as long as you're not a dick about it, I think you're fine to ask people that. Yeah,
exactly. And then MP, always happy to see MP. $9.99. As fans, we're comfortable talking about editorial messing with a creator's vision as an explanation for failure. But how do we talk about the opposite? A good creator is given free reins and it fails.
I think it's fair. And I think it's a good way of seeing the reason why these two sides of the same coin exist. No one creative can get full control over everything. And then you can't have editorial completely like putting the hammer down on everything as well. It's a balancing act across the board.
MP, that's something that I think about a lot. How do we talk about when a creator just fails? And look, you know, this was the most I hate to say this, I love this man so much. This was the most colossal failure that I've seen in comics.
Of his, like, of someone of stature like that,
Yeah.
sort of, making the big transition, this being a push, like, this was a momentous occasion in comics as much as it was a marketing tact for DC. Uh, sometimes it doesn't land.
I always wonder, like, it's a big what if in my mind, because I know Bendis talked about his inception to want to write DC came about through Superman, right? I always wonder if maybe he should have waited for Superman, or they should have given him something more similar to what worked so well for him at Marvel. His first stuff at Marvel that really hit was Daredevil. Give him the Daredevil-esque character of Batman first, in my eyes. That's the way I always viewed it. And maybe let him get his footing into this universe with this character.
Couldn't.
I know, because Batman was so integral to what they were plans for, and Tom King was still writing at this point, right?
It's the Tom King of it all. Yeah, that's why they couldn't do it. 2017, when they brought Bendis on, there's no way you could take Tom off. And if you did that, you run the risk of alienating, your newest star.
So it's strangely the best time for Bendis to go to DC because of all the extenuating circumstances and the offer being there, but also potentially the worst time for him to be there.
But it's also a thing of, like, if you are going to do this, you have to make it big. Like, I don't know that there is an on-ramping or onboarding for Bendis that doesn't involve giving him a marquee title. I don't think that makes sense, because then you're spending extra money for him to write. I don't even know, the Wonder Twins. Like, I don't know how you make that rationale without also supporting it with, yeah, but he's doing an event and he's doing Superman.
Real quick, shout out to Peter, Gavin Guidry's son, Peter Guidry, who's celebrating a birthday today. Happy birthday, Peter. I hope it's a wonderful one. And I hope that your daddy has bought you gifts commiserate with that check that DC is putting in his kitty.
There better be a big box.
Why are we putting stuff in kitties? I thought we put them in piggy banks. I have cats. They're looking at me funny when I say that.
Oh, you're getting him a cat?
No,
don't shake the box.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
Don't shake the box.
Hero says, I do think it is harder for you guys to be as frank as us in the chat because y'all have to actually meet and talk to these people. To us, they are mostly names on a page and we can critique carelessly. Yes.
Guys, Sean has done one-on-ones with Tom King multiple times.
Yeah.
It's Tom King. Sorry, go ahead.
I think there's also an understanding, I think, from creators, as long as you come about this at a respectable level, that you're not going to like all their work.
Yep.
And also, like, we get on here and talk, and we're talking about a specific book, and I say what I think. But if you ask me my opinion about Tom King, I think Tom King is wonderful, and I think he's one of the best writers in comics. I just happen to not like some of his work, but that's okay, because I love, like, what I like, I love, and what I don't like, I just don't like. Except Heroes in Crisis, which I fucking hate, and I do want to say I apologize because last week I was super hot on Heroes in Crisis. I didn't realize how much that book bothers me because it felt disrespectful as someone who deals with mental health problems and always tries to advocate it. And I know he was coming from a great place. It just hit me wrong the night before. But anyway, it doesn't matter.
That's your least favorite of his works, right?
It's the only one of his work that I feel like I have a disgust for.
My least favorite of his is the Iraq War.
Liberal.
Ted H with the 10 spot, loving the deep dive. DC gave us John and then put him through all that trauma. What a shame. Well, the comic book industry is known to not be terribly precious with its darling characters.
It's a reflection of Bendis. DC gave us Bendis and put him through all that trauma.
DC gave us Bendis, and he put us through all that fucking
Yeah,
trauma.
no, DC gave him everything he wanted.
This is the
And
one
more.
time I'm not putting it on the shoulders of editorial.
I can't even think of something that like he didn't get. He got all the artists he he'd worked with. They pulled Legion out of nowhere, out of non-existence, let him reinvent the characters too. It wasn't even like, hey, here's the old Legion. No, you get to redo Legion.
Yeah.
Yep.
They gave him the League.
Book. Yeah.
They gave him the Walmart book. They gave him the League. He had everything.
Yo, I can't even remember what Bendis' Justice League was like.
Okay, so that was the book where, I don't know if you remember this, Tyler, but that was where the Shazam drama came from, where they were going to rename Black Adam Shazam, and I think, and Bleeding Cool is reporting it as fact, and then it
was
ended up.
the David Marquez stuff with
Yes.
Yeah. Black Adam's on the team with Hippolyta, right?
Yep.
Yeah, actually, I did like that run. It was
That was
short, but I enjoyed it.
That was with the kid, right?
Yeah.
That kid. Marco, who is it?
I forgot, dude.
It was funky, but I don't think it was bad. And
No,
David
no.
Marquez is just a god.
Actually, if I'm looking at his stuff as a whole, that might be some of my favorite stuff he did. Which, you know, big fucking surprise that the guy who wrote all the Avengers books can do a team book.
It honestly seems like, to me personally, a no-brainer. If you had asked me, what do you want to see Bendis do? I would have said Justice League and Batman.
Mhm.
Not necessarily because that's where I would have placed them best, but because that's what he was doing that I liked.
Yeah.
So yeah. Let's talk about the sins of Bendis. Ragu we've dealt with. The one we haven't touched on is the sin that I think DC fans hold against Bendis most, which is aging up John Kent. This was the thing that Bendis did that really turned Superman fans against Bendis in a very visceral way, because John Kent was the best thing that happened to Superman in arguably over a decade. Because the New 52 did the character no favors. And other than Johns and Frank, he was kind of floundering in the 2000s. So John Kent created a new legion of fans for the character and made him connectable to modern audiences. And Bendis took the thing that made Superman work for so many people and removed him from the equation in the way that people wanted him most. They took him, they put him in space with Jor-El, and aged him up and made him go through torture and trauma.
Yes, it wasn't just aging him up. He lived in a volcano, right?
Right.
He was beaten by Ultraman constantly.
He was completely tortured and traumatized beyond belief.
A child.
Yes.
Damn, dude.
This was rough. I've read it. I've read some of that stuff. It isn't like it's a good story, and it's hard to read.
As you were reading it, Sean, did it feel organic?
That's such a hard question to answer because
you know.
Yeah.
I remember
I didn't read it at the time. I read it like after the fact.
Sure.
Yeah, I read it at the time, and I remember thinking, why? This makes no sense. Like, Super Sons was so well loved, which book club on Monday, by the way.
Yes, thank you.
So
8 p.m.
8 p.m. Monday, book club, Super Sons. It's a quick read. You can get through it pretty quickly.
It's been fun.
But like, there was the fans loved Super Sons. Like, look how we fucking dominated our poll for the book club. And I remember thinking, like, why do this? It doesn't make sense in the moment. Of course, it sort of makes sense later on. But in the moment, it was like, you just ruined a good thing. And why did one of my favorite writers do this? You know, I was like a little pissed at Bendis, and then I was a huge Bendis guy. I was like cool with him doing the Rogozal stuff, doing the stuff that I didn't really care for, bringing in Ramita to Drogrod, like all that stuff. But this just did not compute to me. And it seemed
You
counter to what Bendis would do. I would think he'd be wanting to write a younger character.
you were at the time reading it all through, because you said
Oh,
you
yeah,
kept
yeah.
on from Rebirth through this
I have not read a Superman comic since.
then. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, cool.
Chelsea May says John Kent had so much potential. Aging him up got rid of all that for both him and Superman. JB says aging up John felt like having Dick as Robin, skipping his time as Nightwing, and go immediately to his time as Batman. It's very egregious in a vein similar to what you are saying, JB. I completely agree with that. Now, here's the problem, guys. Every single person is pointing the finger at Bendis for aging up John Kent.
Uh-oh.
Why'd he do it?
And I am here to tell you that you were wrong to do that.
What? Was it Rogozal this whole time to destroy Krypton?
Oh, it was Ragu.
Atomic Hound says, but was John's changes a function of the meddler, aka Dr. Dan Hatton?
I don't like the idea of Dr. Dan Hatton because I picture Blue Dan Didio just hanging hog at the DC offices.
We did that. We did that.
I
Didn't
think
we do that already?
once-
Yeah.
I think you made it,
photoshopped it.
That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Damn it! The meddler strikes again.
CW Gordon, but I thought the meddler hated second generation heroes because they aged the main characters. Why would aging them up fix that? I have an answer. There is a very, very good answer. Dan Didio, as a part of 5G, wanted John Kent to be a part of the new Trinity. And you couldn't do that if John Kent was a child. It wouldn't work. So in order to get where Dan wanted to go, John Kent had to be aged up. Now, I have never had a private conversation with Dan Didio or Brian Michael Bendis about this. So I cannot say to you for a definitive fact that they had a conversation in which Dan instructed Bendis to do this. I can't tell you that. But I can tell you that 1 + 1, where I come from, equals 2. Dan Didio had a plan for John Kent to be the Superman of 5G. That could not happen with him as a child. Every other character that Dan had a plan for at this time is being moved like chess pieces into particular positions. And Dan Didio had plans for everybody. So the fact that John Kent was used that way when 5G was on the horizon tells me that that is what he wanted to happen and instructed it to make it happen. Again, I'm not telling you I know that for a fact. I'm only telling you that that is my supposition based on the information in front of me.
Yeah.
Which is understandable supposition. You don't need a sinful head for that one.
Right. So I say the meddler strikes again, Skyfish. I agree with that. That's what I say. And even if you put everything else on Bendis, you can hate the run, you can think he sucked on Justice League, you can say everything else, but you cannot lay this one at the feet of Bendis, in my opinion.
Which is one of the more egregious ones.
Arguably the most.
Yeah.
Bendis' tenure at DC ended with a whimper. It ended with a whimper.
What was his last official book?
Well, Superman.
Was it Superman?
He was on it the whole time.
Yeah.
He's in fact, he said that his time on Superman is so far away. He said that in June of 2011, or what am I saying? June of 2020. And then it also in June of 2020, he said his run was heading toward the end. And then in September of 2020, the run came to an end. So if the run was so far away in June,
Wow.
why did it end in September?
That's like solicits in the following month, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then as of 2021, it was official that the deal was over, the exclusivity deal was over. And in September of 2020, Rich Johnson reported that Bendis's time as an exclusive creator with DC was over. So it was made official in 2021, but as of September of 2020, Rich Johnson already knew that there was a problem. And what was the problem? The problem was that the sales didn't justify Bendis being an exclusive creator.
That's right. That's right.
Which is what Marvel was already experiencing right before he joined DC.
Bad ROAS. I don't know, what is it? Bad ROI. Bad ROI. You're not looks maxing the right way.
I don't know your fucking LinkedIn speak, Marco. I don't speak LinkedIn.
It's looks maxing, dude.
Foxtastic is right. Justice League, and Legion was his last official work. Superman ended when Bendis's exclusivity ended.
Yeah, dude. And you know what? They only, it seems like they just kind of like let it run its course. Just let that end. Let's not renew or wash our hands of all this stuff. Forget about it.
And how could Tomasi and Gleason feel knowing that they were the ones to rehab Superman in the Rebirth era, only to get shoved aside for a run that would go on to be as critically panned as theirs was critically acclaimed?
If I'm Peter Tomasi, I'm thinking, man, I should just make my own books.
And that's probably a really good reason as to why he would go on to join Ghost Machine just a few years later.
Whoa, Tyler, nice. Connecting these pieces, dude.
Playing a little podcast chess in my brain right now.
That's right.
But that's how all these things happen, guys. That's not some crazy conspiracy leap.
But then look who else was at Ghost Machine who started it. Jeff Johns, who also was a person that was burned from this whole era of DC.
Yep.
Oh my God. You want to talk about getting burned?
Yeah.
Wait until we get into the next piece. Oh my God.
They're talking about how DC Rebirth, the end of it is the birth of 5G. It's the birth of Ghost Machine too.
It is.
Yeah.
It literally is.
The next the next part of this is just a dial in from Jeff Johns.
The next part of this is the meddling. The meddling of Dan Didio and how bad it got. And we're going to do that. But we owe some wheel spins. And I want to shout out the people who make this possible every single week. I want to shout out the patrons. Patreon.com/thecomicspals is the absolute best way to support your boys and put your comics bucks where your mouth is. If this kind of thing is important to you, if you love these deep dives, if you love the three of us coming here every single week, never missing a moment, then your love hits us best over on Patreon. Special shout out to our Palsverse legends, the Hound of Justice, Atomic Hound, Starcross, Catherine Stars, the Spear of Judgment, Jay's Jumble, Safe Haven, Hayden's Hideout, the Red Spiral, Spiral Storm, who has already hit us with a PayPal donation this morning. Thank you. And of course, Atomic Hound hitting us with the 20 spot earlier. Jesse and the Juggernaut, Kyle the Zenith, Flair, Panda v Panda, Ted Wong, Adam Soulless Smith, Sam the Last Young Renegade, who's been all in our chat, Blur Jekyll Jose, Entertain Me, Peter Living Lightning Electrics, Just Unseen, Shalom Paladin Warburg, Jamzilla, and Cosm Deandric. And thank you to Palsverse members, Brian, Demolisher Del Pozo, Kefis the Incorruptible, Momentum Mike Elliott, Dan the Truth Trudeau, Slow Flow Dameron, Marley Manistorm, Christian Uncaged, The Spear of Justice, Izzy's Issues, Robert Runback, Cashback, Pete the Dreamy for Collins, James Just Jamming Jones, Paul Powerhouse Smith, Neon Knight, The Cosmic Avenger, BJ Kicks of Comics Are Dope, The Grand Alchemist, Chop Harder Alchemist, and John Barrier B. If you didn't hear your name and you're supposed to, you will soon. stick around. Please spin the wheel so I can rest.
I already spun it, and you do get to rest because Marco has 1 minute right now.
Ooh,
Hey.
let's go.
Marco, can I prompt him, Sean?
Yeah.
What were you doing with your DC Comics reading around the tail end of the Rebirth era? You're podcasting at this point,
I was.
so let's take a mental time machine. See how you were feeling back then.
A mental time, just in terms of what I was reading.
Sure, whatever. Yeah, whatever.
I mean, I wasn't as active a participant within some of the Rebirth stuff, honestly. It was, and you know, we'll talk about my top book, but it was definitely following creators wherever they were and where they lived at the time. So definitely not anything Marvel. Anything DC was a Tom King outside of, outside of Batman. Trying to think. Again, I mentioned it earlier. Young Animal was huge at the time. That was taking up a good chunk of my reading.
Mm.
Shade the Changing Girl, the Sandman stuff had at that point also splintered off into its kind of partial own universe that I was absorbing. The Dreaming, I'm forgetting what it was. Bocus Evely, I think that was the
Lucas
Dreaming,
Evely,
actually.
yeah.
Yeah, like all that kind of stuff apart from mainline.
All right.
Hmm.
Love a Marco's Minute. We haven't had one of those in a while. All
Do
the
another, do
Marco
another.
heads. Do another. Do another wheel spin. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it could be another Marcus Minute. Who knows?
Atomic House said 10 years ago, Marco had been reading 10 years. Just like now.
Drink up. Drink of water.
Hey, let's go. Yo, dude, look at this. I had my juice from this morning. I have my coffee in here. I'm gonna take a sip of my water.
Congrats. You have ADHD.
Thank you, guys. Go ahead.
Well hydrated system. Energy, nutrition, hydration.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I get that.
It's my biostack.
Blur Jekyll Jose, whose name I just finished shouting out, dropping 10 on us on my way to a No Kings rally. That's what's up. Good
Let's
for you, bro.
go.
But I acknowledge my hypocrisy for recognizing the pals as the kings of comics YouTube.
Let's go.
As always, I'll have to catch most of this from the future.
Long may we reign,
Mhm.
Blur Jose.
I want to be the
That's-
court jester.
That's extremely kind of you to say. I don't know if the crowd is big enough for all three of us, but we'll share it.
Nope, I want to be clown.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll be the princess.
And you know, I want to say this. And I'm in my bag. I'm feeling us right now. This is no offense to anybody, but I want to say that right now, at this moment in time, we have more people with us live than Near Mint Condition does. And I fucking love Near Mint Condition to death. But I've never seen that before on a Saturday morning, and I take pride in that because they have a legion of audience. We do too, and I know there's so much cross-pollination. So really what I'm saying is thank you so much for choosing us this morning.
You said, Omar, here, take this white glove and let me slap you with it real quick. Damn, I challenge you to a duel.
Yeah. He said pride like lions, like Lion King, the kings of YouTube. It's a real reach.
It's well, you know, at least we got to peek into your mind there.
That's right. That's right. He gets to see how
Very
it works.
confusing whenever we get peeks into it, but yeah.
MP with a 499. Would Bendis on Superman have worked better if he was just given a separate Superman title? But DC kept Tamashii and Jurgens a la Dan Slott with Unlimited.
It's a little hard to say would it have worked because I think you still want him on your biggest book.
Exactly.
I don't like his Superman run, but I don't really see at the time what other option there was.
Here's the problem, MP. You don't pay Bendis money to do an offshoot title.
Yep.
And that's a business reality that's only becoming clearer to me in the last couple years as I get even deeper into comics. But that wouldn't make any fiscal sense, and they did what made business sense for them. The reason you could do that with Dan Slott is because Dan Slott's not exclusive, and they're just paying him whatever normal page rate he gets, and they're not committed for a long time to whatever it is that they're doing with him.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So that's just slightly different. But go ahead.
I was going to shout out one more super chat we had earlier, from Flo. He
Please.
said, "Hanging hog in blue paint watching this episode."
Hey, let's go.
Well, I don't think you could put that on your Instagram reels.
Please
Yo,
don't.
he's been crushing it with those.
And Amin with the 5 spot, hit that like button. Marco, stop frame mogging us with your LinkedIn slot maxing.
Hey,
Oh,
let's
God.
go. Let's go. You know
Oh,
what?
God.
I have been LinkedIn maxing. I recently responded to a Heidi McDonald post. I have been responding to
Brother, this guy stinks.
a lot of Adam Freeman. I'll respond to on LinkedIn. You know, we gotta be everywhere. And so even in some of those areas that maybe feel a little more out there or far from us, you know, just gotta have a slight little presence.
Okay.
There's nothing I hate more.
The games are great.
Like it's like the Game of Thrones of LinkedIn.
No, like LinkedIn has games that you can kind of play.
Like what?
They're very good. It's right.
Oh, I can guarantee you they're not good.
All right. LinkedIn aside. So let's talk about the meddler. Because Dan Didio at this time, something changed. Something big changed. And we talked about it last week. Jeff Johns lost his executive position at DC Comics. He was now a freelancer once again, which he had not been for some time. And he was work for hire essentially in the film space as well. So he no longer had the level of power that he had, which means that the only real competition Dan Didio had for power anymore was Jim Lee, who was the co-publisher of the company and wasn't going to stand in Dan Didio's way. Jim and Dan had very different interests at the time. If you recall, Jim Lee was one of the primary figureheads behind the DC Universe video game, which was one of his biggest interests. And obviously, Jim Lee being an artist, the art side of DC was one of his biggest interests as well. He wasn't that concerned with the day-to-day creative as Dan was. And go ahead.
I felt like Jim Lee was a little more publicly facing, where the Dio was probably running the stuff behind the scenes. Is that a fair?
They were both very, very public facing. And I would say Dan Didio is probably the most forward facing of any of the executives that Marvel or DC has had in the last 20 years.
Yeah, fair.
Other than Joe Quesada.
Yeah. I still remember that ad, you know?
Which
the black and white ones. It's in it's in the thumbnail.
Yeah. I still remember that.
I was so happy that DC was putting out ads of all their creators in black and white that I can use for all of these Rebirth things.
You're still there.
Dan Didio used the fact that he no longer had to battle for creative control to his advantage. And there are so many ways in which this time period negatively impacted DC Comics. Atomic Hound with the 199 said, and Jim was busy getting a head start on Hush 2.
Yep.
That's good. That's real good.
It's funny. Yeah, I do remember. I do remember that. I mean, the MOBA that DC made. I fucking loved playing that, but
I never played DC Universe Online.
That game was fun as shit.
I did see somebody just made a fan server like last week that is playable.
Why? The game is still open.
No, it's Marvel's Heroes. That's what it was. Okay.
That game is fire. I can't wait. Yo, who has the link? Somebody put me on. I want to get on.
Well, I'll get it to you after the show, Sean. Jeez.
Oh, thank you.
It's DC's podcast. Come on.
Oh yeah.
Wait, Infinite Crisis?
No, Infinite. Oh yeah, Infinite Crisis. Yeah. Yes.
Okay. That the servers were shut down for that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
DC Universe Online is the one that's still happening.
That's what I'm thinking of. Okay.
Yeah. It didn't even get out the box. I'm pretty sure the Infinite Crisis MOBA stayed as a PTR. I don't think it actually like fully launched. Marvel Heroes, though, I fucking put money into that game, bro. That shit was crazy fun.
Never played it.
If anybody here who plays shit like that, let's do it. Let's jump on the new server, Marvel Heroes, and play together. I will definitely do that.
It was an MMORPG, right? And like
That's-
DC Universe Online was? Or no, it was more like Diablo, right?
It's a Diablo
Yeah.
style game, and it was created by, I think his name is David Brevik, one of the creators of Diablo.
Oh wow. Oh yeah,
yeah.
I'm down. I'm down. We'll figure that out after the show.
It's genuinely fun as fuck, and it has everybody in it. Andrew Dunson with a $4.99. I gave up social media for Lent, but stayed on the Discord and YouTube. I have chosen the pals over God.
Yeah.
Also, when are we getting a spreading it shirt?
Okay, that's a
Hey.
wild follow-up sentence to talking about God and Lent.
Hey, good on you for keeping
you know
on.
who was spreading it? Jesus, when he spread open the rock from the tomb, came back from the dead.
You know what else he was spreading it? When he flipped that table, cracked that shit in half.
You know who wasn't? Mary.
Yikes.
I've heard
Allegedly.
otherwise.
Oh, Sean's reading the unreleased gospels.
Yeah, Andrew, thank you. I like to think that there is a godly aspect to the show. And the only God I acknowledge is the one I see in mirrors. So thank you so much for that.
Yeah. Good on you. Good on you for sticking to Lent.
I beg your pardon. I beg your pardon.
Oh man. Well, you know who else saw God in the mirror? The meddler.
No, I bet.
he was the god of DC. He was the Dr. Manhattan, and he was able to put pieces in places. We talked about the John Kent of it all. 5G was Dan Didio's big play. Understand something critical, okay? Understand this now. Dan Didio does not believe that the past is the key to the future. He just doesn't. He doesn't think like that. He, to his credit, wants to push comics forward. He believes that relying relentlessly on what has worked before is going to doom this industry. He said multiple times that there is a Harry Potter effect on Batman, Wonder Woman, and Superman specifically. Excuse me. The Harry Potter effect is on Wally, Dick Grayson, and characters like that, in which they age.
Oh.
The Simpsons effect is what is on DC's Trinity and others.
Gotcha.
Where no matter how long you've been watching The Simpsons, the baby is still a baby. No one ages. But Harry Potter, you're seeing their lives as a straight line.
For sure. That makes sense.
And Dan has talked a lot about how, well, if we keep doing this, one day we're going to have to tell the story of how Wally and Dick got older than Bruce and Barry. Because Bruce and Barry don't age. Barry can't age because then Barry becomes Jay Garrick. But Jay Garrick already exists and he ain't going anywhere. So how do you move them up the chain to make room for the next generation if the current one won't leave? And because Dan could not do anything about the current generation and making them leave, he put his focus on the characters he could affect. Wally, Dick, and others. That's why they get put through the ringer, but the core Trinity does not. He cannot do that to them, or he couldn't do it. 5G is when Dan believes he has the most power he's ever had. And this is the way he is going to move comics forward. Because he finally has figured out a way to push Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman aside. The 5G Files is as comprehensive, a distilled identification of what 5G would have been, and I'm not doing it again. So if you want all of the details, you have to watch the 5G Files compilation.
Right.
But editor's note. Bleeding Cool, for their part, did a tremendous job of reporting on 5G as it was revealed to us, or not revealed to us, because it wasn't, but as scuttlebutt started for this situation. They first started reporting about it or hearing, you know, anything about this in 2019. June 13th, 2019 was the first Bleeding Cool report about 5G. And it was less than 1 year later that Dan Didio was fired.
Mm.
Less than 1 year before COVID. Because he was fired on February 21st of 2020. And so what we're going to do now that you know when he was fired, I'm going to tell you why. We're going to work our way backwards. And I'm going to use creator's own words to tell you what Dan Didio was trying to accomplish behind the scenes and why DC, as an antibody, the same way that DC responded to Dr. Manhattan's meddling, how the real people who work at DC responded to Dan Didio's meddling and needed him gone. It was at Comics Pro in February that Dan Didio's firing was announced. Here is direct verbiage from Bleeding Cool. Certainly, Didio's departure was a surprise to him as it was everyone else. I understand that it was internally announced at a series of small staff meetings at Burbank today, though no one seems to have told the executives attending Comics Pro, who had to read about it on Bleeding Cool on their mobile phones, and who sharply exited the conference as a result. Jim Lee is the remaining publisher and chief creative officer at DC, and so will be steering the ship for the foreseeable future. Also at Comics Pro, there was a lot of discussion amongst retailers about Didio's firing, with comic book writer Scott Snyder's name being mentioned a lot as a factor. Internally at DC Comics, Snyder was seen as someone opposed to what was being planned with 5G and thought it would harm retailers. Snyder and Didio were not eye to eye creatively, but I understand that Snyder merely wanted to keep his upcoming death metal book as far away from 5G/Generation 5 as possible, intending to use the series to celebrate DC's 85 years to date, rather than anything forward-looking. This frustrated Didio's plans to introduce 5G with death metal, and as a result, mentions of death metal were taken out of the planned Generation Zero Gods Among Us story for Free Comic Book Day. That is how imminent 5G was.
In the Free Comic Book Day. It's coming up.
Free Comic Book Day is in May. This is February of the same year. That Free Comic Book Day one shot was printed. They pulped 1 million copies.
Damn.
Did we never get that book?
No, I would pay. I would fucking pay. If somebody has just one of them, I would love to have that.
I'm looking at the cover of it. Yeah.
It's never seen the light of day.
Batman Who Laughs is on it, so it definitely had some kind of planned connection to metal, right?
Well, yeah. Dan Didio wanted to use death metal as the springboard to 5G. And if you read death metal, you can certainly see, you can clearly tell that this book was meddled with. There's no doubt. I read it last night. There's no fucking doubt.
And the God Among Us probably would have been a continuation of Didio's Flash Forward series, which was like that Wally cosmic book.
Well, that was continued. Death metal continues that directly.
Got it. Okay.
And then I imagine that the Free Comic Book Day, because Wally was essentially infused with like Dr. Manhattan, anti-crisis power.
Oh yeah.
And he became the target of the Man Who Laughs because they needed to kill him to get things to the way they needed to be. I'm going to talk about death metal more later. Needless to say, I read it and I have regrets. But what we're going to hear from now is a creator who was very much seeing the writing on the wall with 5G, and that's Grant Morrison. So they wrote about their experience at DC post Jeff Johns, pre 5G, and what Dan wanted them to do. Quote, the 5G timeline is a fascinating document, a heroic attempt to unify all of DC's history and allow characters to age and die in real time. It had genuine potential to shake things up, but was seen as too radical. In this amalgamated continuity, Superman arrived on Earth in 1938, worked in secret, and didn't show himself in public until the 60s. The classic Justice League had been replaced in the present day with a middle-aged Titans team, and so on. I pointed out some glaring problems with the way years and decades, hours and minutes worked in relation to our consensus understanding of the conventional flow of calendar time. But easily impressed as I am, I was otherwise captivated by 5G's ambitious do-or-die grandiosity. Fellow freelancers felt differently. Such was the massive and catastrophic impact on their plans that DC's most prominent writer at the time, someone I respect a great deal, called to enlist my aid in what he described as an intervention. I felt we should just let it rip and make hay, which was easy for me to say as I knew I was on my way out and I wasn't having years worth of planning thrown out. Who is DC's most prominent writer at the time?
Snyder.
Yep. So Grant Morrison says that Scott Snyder was planning a coup to stop Dan Didio from 5G.
That's wild. Getting all the votes, getting all the people on his favor, on his side.
Two thoughts here. Okay. Is Grant writing this before they have involvement in Superman and the Authority?
Yes, this was written in 2021.
Okay. So this is before they have actual fingers in the pie that is 5G.
Yeah.
This is after their experience with 5G.
Oh, this is after. Okay.
And
looking back,
and after their exit from DC, before they returned recently for the crossover shit. It's also worth saying, and I cut the quote just because it was superfluous, but it's worth saying that that Grant was a big fan of Dan and credits Dan Didio with their success at DC because Dan always championed Grant. But think about that. Grant is probably the most forward-thinking writer that DC had at the same time. Grant was always trying to push things forward and integrate DC's history in a unique way, in a holistic way. What was their run on Batman, if not a microcosm of what Dan wanted to do with 5G?
And then who took the ball and ran with it during New 52 for a completely new continuity? It was Grant with Action Comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all fascinating.
Yeah.
But Dan didn't always say things that Grant appreciated because Grant was actually writing a book at the time of 5G's imminence called Superman and the Authority. Here's what Grant told CBR about what was expected of them on that title. Bringing in Superman changes everything because when they came to me with it, they said, quote, we want Superman to kind of go authoritarian. And I just do not like the idea that Superman would ever be dictatorial or would watch his loved ones die and not be able to deal with it like the rest of us do. I wanted to do a Superman that was older and made very different choices and did something that looked authoritarian but was way bigger and way more sci-fi, and that was kind of the idea. So, if you've read Superman and the Authority, like I have,
good book.
It is a good book. You can clearly see what Grant is talking about. It's very obvious. That book was meant to make Superman go down a path to the dark side, and Grant wasn't having it. So they didn't do it. They didn't do what they were asked to do, but the book shipped anyway. Look at the trajectory of Superman's storytelling at this time. John Kent gets aged up, Superman gets aged up as well and is going bad, and then he gets sent away to Warworld. Now, Warworld was not the original intention, but Superman was supposed to go away for a while. Superman was going to retire to Africa. And
okay, Dave Chappelle.
yeah, I know. Superman was going to retire to Africa, and he was going to be older and more jaded and more angry, and he was essentially going to take there was going to be a civil war that was going to happen, and essentially Superman was going to take the position of like anti government influence and control over superhuman activity.
Okay.
So if you look at Civil War, he was going to be like the Cap, I
Mhm.
guess.
Sure.
Superman would be?
Yeah, if I remember correctly, it's been a while, but if I remember correctly, he was going to be the Cap of this Civil War style event that they were going to have. Not that he was necessarily the good guy. I believe the idea was sort of that Batman and Superman were both wrong. But because they were putting their feelings above what was best for the heroes who were the heroes of now, which
Sure.
are Yada Flor, Jace Fox, and John Kent.
They would be the ones dealing with, the ramification, but these guys are the pillars of opinion.
And that was the way that they were going to write off Superman because he was going to die.
Oh.
Essentially, his powers were going crazy, and he would end up dying, and John would become the main Superman and everything else.
And if you're going to show that this world is distinctly different and the characters are aging up in real time and dying and the new generation is going to come in, you start with Superman.
Yeah. Atomic Hound with a 9.99. Thank you. Wow, you guys are really, really hooking it up today. Really appreciate that, Hound. And how ironic is it that Dan got fired in February 2020, the same month as the cover date of Doomsday Clock number 12. The Doomsday Clock finally hit midnight for the Meddler. Yeah. And I'm not going to tell you whether it was deserved or not. But when you're alienating and upsetting your creatives to the degree that he did, maybe pushback was necessary. How about Joshua Williamson? Because Joshua Williamson was a big deal at this time. He was on the come up, his Flash run, he had written The Button, he was the next up. Well, what if I told you that Joshua Williamson was set to leave DC Comics entirely as a result of 5G?
I'd say, I don't believe you.
Well, here's the quote. I wasn't on a 5G comic. I was leaving. That's the truth. Like, I was leaving. I was looking at the writing on the wall and where things were going, and I didn't feel like it was good for me. Things weren't clicking, and so my plan was to leave after Flash. That was really the goal, to wrap up Flash, do what I could do on Death Metal, working with Scott and James Tynion, wrap up the story that we were planning on telling, and then I was getting out of town. I didn't really tell anybody at the time, but my contract was winding down, and I knew what I was doing, but then things changed. Things changed, of course. He doesn't say it explicitly, but things changed was Dan got fucking fired. And then he goes on to say, quote, things changed. I renewed my deal. And then I was like, all right, let's go. And I started talking about different books. We started talking about Robin. We started talking about all kinds of stuff last summer. And then that led to talking about Infinite Frontier, all the plans that we had. Then it was like, oh, it's on now. It's game time. So here's a bunch of ideas. There's much we can do. And I started pushing it. But yeah, 5G, man. I mean, man, talk about getting a drink at a con.
So he went from potentially not ready for DC because of 5G to then writing a Crisis.
Yep.
Damn.
Oddly, strangely, the Crisis that had the name that Dan Didio always wanted a Crisis to have, Dark Crisis.
Oddly or on purpose?
Oh, I think it was on purpose.
Yeah.
Nice little jab. Here you go.
Well, also, if you look at the trajectory of DC at that time, the main character was Nightwing,
Yep.
the exact character that Dan Didio disliked most.
Yeah.
Um,
Right, because he was the heart of DC. Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Yep.
they positioned him in the exact opposite position that Didio positioned him as.
That's so funny.
But a lot of 5G runoff actually came out. Like we saw so much of what 5G was intended to be. That's what Future State was.
Yep.
That's what all that stuff was. All the stuff they did with Yada Flora around that time, Swamp Thing, I Am Batman, all of that was meant to lead to 5G. Like that was the build. That was 5G.
Mhm.
That's what it was. It just we didn't get even the events, the Lazarus Planet event. Portions of that idea were meant to be in 5G. Batman versus Robin was going to be a 5G event. All that shit. Scott Snyder left DC at this time. He left. Remember Scott Tober?
Yep.
He left, and he left specifically because of all the meddling that happened with death metal. He had enough. And he talked about this on his Substack not 2 weeks ago with Joshua Williamson. They both discussed it. And he talked about how he couldn't do it anymore. He had been put through the ringer so much with Dan Didio and death metal, and death metal's point being this is the 85th anniversary of DC. Let's talk about how beautiful this is. And Dan's point sort of being like, no, let's talk about how beautiful the future of DC is. And that was the conflict. And Scott left.
Yeah. Yeah. And at the time for, I've also seen in some interviews, he was trying to break free of those constraints that you're talking about, right? Like that conflict. And so the turn to comicsology and all that kind of stuff was also let's just spread my creative wings. Let me just do a bunch of shit, right? Like in contrast to I need to be doing this thing with this intended purpose because I need to have this book lead into the next whatever is meant to that is dictated to me, not me just free reign dictating a creative book.
Yep.
Yeah. Good.
I want to call out MX Mothman's comment here saying canceling 5D did create a lot of problems for what everyone was doing for the next few years, unfortunately, because comics works a little too slow to make such a hard pivot. Like, so that's why we had a lot of those kind of that runoff, those vestiges of what 5G would have been. And I don't think it fully resolved itself for post-Dark Crisis, right?
Yeah, absolutely post Dark Crisis. I mean, I think Lazarus Planet was that post Dark Crisis,
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were still getting 5G runoff for years, but the reason that happened, more than anything else, is COVID.
Sure.
COVID happened and pencils were down because of Diamond, and DC said, "Nah, fuck that." But the realities of COVID were such that creators couldn't all necessarily get back to work, and the flow of comics slowed dramatically down. And so what they had ready was all this 5G shit. And it's remarkable to see how much of it we got, and I encourage you to watch our 5G files because you'll hear a lot more about that. But we got a lot.
Yeah.
The art was paid for, as Hayden points out. The art was paid for. Scripts were already turned in many cases. Think about the fact that Chip Zdarsky's whole year, this year, 2026, is all written. Some amount of that is already drawn. So imagine what would happen if you then said, well, fuck, we don't want to do Chip's plan.
That's craziness.
That's still wild that there is somewhere a copy of this Generation Zero book.
There has to be.
Yeah.
I refuse to believe that all 1 million were pulped.
Let me get a PDF.
Please. Fuck.
You need an Amazon leak, not a Sony leak. You need a Comixology leak.
For real. Death metal was meddled with, as I said. First of all, when you open that fucking book, when you open Death Metal #1, there is a social distancing jump scare.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the first page has two superheroes on it being 6 feet apart, and it says practice social distancing.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Is it still in the?
it's if you read the issue 1, if you go back and get that like that, but not the collection,
Okay.
but the
Oh,
individual
okay. Is it like an
issue.
ad or like a
Yeah,
PSA?
yeah.
Okay, God.
It's
Oh,
a it's a
God.
it's
I
a
don't like that.
PSA. Yeah,
It's
awful.
page 1.
Yeah, it was a jump scare. I opened it up. I'm like, oh my God, fuck.
Damn, you're like, get my mask. Where is it?
Yeah, I had horrible flashbacks. From the immediate, Scott Snyder is talking his shit immediately. Sergeant Rock in this book, for those of you who recall his presence for some bizarre reason, is Scott Snyder talking to us. 100%. Death Metal is an anti-Didio, anti-corporate DC book. 100%. I have no doubt about it. It's also batshit fucking crazy, annoying, borderline incomprehensible, and a frustrating read, especially if you're not reading it connected to all of the other material, because you don't understand Perpetua, you don't know about Prime Lex, Apex Lex, you don't understand why the world has been reshaped.
Yep.
It's just fucking weird.
I remember liking Snyder's Justice League run, actually. I thought that was fun stuff. And then getting into Death Metal, I'm like, no, I've read everything I was supposed to read, and I still find it confusing.
It was brutal.
Do you think it was too much of a fuck you to Didio that it lost its place from a craft standpoint?
It's hard for me to argue that Scott Snyder wasn't just super pissed at this time, and like had to get this off, and also, so I agree with you, but also on top of that, like, just read it. It reads like it was fucked with. I don't have facts about it, but I know Snyder said that he was frustrated with how much editorial oversight there was on Death Metal. So while I don't know the specifics, I know that much.
Right, right. And in the writing, in the art, you can always you can feel it, right? Like there's always a sense that, hey, this was going one direction and suddenly changes.
And I thought Greg Capullo wasn't at the top of his powers in Death Metal either. I wasn't as impressed with his art as I was in the initial Metal.
He probably had some hard changes, and that's even worse on an art front.
Oh, forget it. Yeah.
Yep.
And look, he didn't do much more at DC either.
Yeah, that was his last thing, right?
They did the Last Night on Earth. I remember that.
Yes,
That was their
yes.
last Batman story.
Joker's head in a jar. Yeah.
I feel like Capullo was gone after that, but
He went back to Spawn for a bit.
Did the Spawn, and then of course,
he threw his colors under the bus, or his anchor under the bus. Then he went to Marvel.
on the Wolverine project.
Yep.
The Wolverine Revenge. So yeah, there you go. Now I'm just gonna hit a few quick hits of what I didn't like about Death Metal. There was a quote from the Batman Who Laughs, who goes through various changes in this run, which are increasingly obnoxious. He says, "Oh, I know. You again. We're sick of you. Yet here you are because deep down you love it. You love being bad with me." That is the Batman Who Laughs talking to us and acknowledging the fact that we don't like this character. And I was annoyed by Scott Snyder for suggesting that deep down we love it. Deep down we don't fucking love it, Scott. Sorry. Batman Who Laughs gets his brain put in the body of Dr. Manhattan. That is exactly what Alan Moore wouldn't have wanted. That is exactly why people were so angry about Doomsday Clock's announcement. Everything that Scott did showed he didn't understand how to preserve the ideas of Watchmen and use them respectfully. There were DCs, he could do what he wanted.
Yeah.
It wasn't wrong to do it, but it reads bad. The Batman Who Laughs morphs into the Darkest Night, which is just like a black,
like a shadow creature, right?
Yeah.
Look like Kingdom Hearts, those fucking Heartless.
Oh yeah.
You look like one of those.
Damn, you're at the fucking Bastion of or what is it? Bastion
Hollow
Hollow.
Bastion.
Yeah.
Darkest Night targets Wally West for the anti-crisis energy, tries to bring about the last 52, which is going to be these worlds that are full of corrupted, evil heroes, and Diana rejects the Darkest Night's offer to revive and reshape reality so her friends would all be alive again and younger, essentially the rejection of the New 52. Scott Snyder puts himself in the position of Sergeant Rock and Wonder Woman, and Darkest Night is Dan Didio. That is my belief reading Death Metal.
Is it worth a reread?
No.
Okay.
Unless you want to see the behind the scenes playing out in the comic.
Sure. Yeah. Like in real time.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's fascinating in that from that context, but as a story, there was very little there for me personally.
All I remember was the Glenn Danzig Superman.
Yep. I didn't like that.
I remember what was it? Yeah, CW Green calls it out. The giant golden Wonder Woman.
Yep.
She just like elevates to this god status. It's like, where are we going with this?
Is this the one that ends with the Batwoman who laughs? No, that's a different book entirely, right? That's Dark Crisis, I think.
Yeah, that didn't happen here, thankfully. Fucking whatever. I don't want to talk about this event too much more. But yeah, so Snyder leaves as a result of the way Death Metal goes. Williamson was ready to fucking leave, but nobody's work was meddled with more than Tom King. No one. Tom King's Batman was meddled with non-stop. Marketing fucked him over with the wedding that wasn't. Alfred's death was supposed to be a fake out. Dan Didio specifically made Tom King make that canon. Made him make it real. That's from Tom's own mouth. I read that quote last week. Also, the run was supposed to be 100 issues. It wasn't. Why? Because Tom King got fired from the job. He was taken off because sales were poor, and the final 15 issues then became the Batcat book. That was so late in publication that it didn't align anymore with where Batman was headed. And Clayman had personal issues that prevented him from drawing it on time. By the end of that book, it's not even in continuity.
It's also Liam Sharp by the end of it, right?
I think there may have been an artist change, but I don't remember specifically what it was. So that all went a disastrous road. But in addition, Tom King was essentially bullied into that role. Here's what Tom said about Dan Didio's 5G and how it fucked up all his plans. Quote, Wonder Woman was not going to be Diana Prince, and Superman was not going to be Clark Kent, and Batman was not going to be Bruce Wayne. And he called me, and I was told this, and this would happen at issue 100. Batman will retire. At the time, Lucius Fox's son was going to become Batman. The original plan was for City of Bane to end at 85 and then do 15 issues of Batcat stories leading to the wedding in 100. Just little 2 to 3 issues. We would do these things. You know, Joe would do 2, Mikkel would do, Clay would do, Mitch, Finch. There's a caper in Rome or the Riddler hasn't solved something. It's whatever it is. And Dan said to me, kind of a Sophie's choice. He's like, if you want, I can have you on the title, but the Batman title has to be dedicated to the setup of this new status quo. The book has to be about Lucius Fox and his son taking on the mantle. I was like, well, no, the book's about this leading to the wedding. He's like, how about this? I'll give you a deal. Because, again, they had not agreed to the wedding. You can have them get married, but you do a separate book. That's the lead up to their marriage, and you have the marriage in it. We'll call it Batcat, Batman Catwoman. We'll do it number 1, and I'll bring in another writer, and we'll do the build up to the 5G in the last 15. Or they don't get married. You lead up to 5G, and you write those issues like I told you, and I'll give you whatever artist you want to do this. It gets worse. He's like, well, I'm going to get a new number one. And I was like, I want to do it with Clay. I'll do this series and we'll have the wedding. And at the end, you'll launch into 5G. And then I would leave the book. And Dan's plan was that Batman would retire. But the moment after, it was to kill off Catwoman basically immediately.
What? Wait, what?
Why?
He goes on. And that's what happened. I just left the book at 85. I went into Batcat, and then chaos broke out. I wrote the issues I wrote for Clay, but there was just some things in his life. It took a year for him to get those issues out. And then Dan's 5G fell apart, and Dan left the company, and they brought on James. And so James ran in a completely different direction than the 5G plan. And by the time Clay and I caught up to our deadlines, we were well past all of these plans.
That's a wild pivot.
Could it like, man, there just seems such like if Didio really wanted Jace Fox and like the 5G of it all, right? Why not let Tom do his book, get to a point where Batman gets married and retires, and then you have an easy story element for a new Batman. But no, he wants to fridge Catwoman for some reason.
Quick and easy, you know. It's worked. It's worked. It's popped numbers before.
To fridge Catwoman to push Batman over the edge. Because for those of you who recall, he was supposed to go down a darker turn as well. Notably, he was supposed to allow Bane, the primary antagonist of this run, to kill the Joker.
Sick him.
Right. And then Batman, in his guilt, would be put on trial. He would allow himself to be put on trial. And then I think Superman saves him or something along those lines because they feel like Bruce is unimpeachable. Because what he does in service of humanity. So if he decided that the Joker had to die, that is something that we can overlook because he's Batman.
Oh, and then Civil War.
Because Bruce feels that that was his deserved fate.
Sure.
Like he earned it through his actions. Chat. How we feeling? You fucking with this still? This is crazy, right? Who knew this? Who knew all this? I've known all this shit. Rich Johnson's known it. We've been talking about it in pieces for years. But 5G files are still releasing because some of this was unknown. So the Tom King shit only came out this year.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Tom Account put up a Bleeding Cool article in the chat of most of the pages from that new comic book day, free comic book thing.
No way.
There's a Bleeding Cool thing. It looks like it deals with like Tempest Fugonaut and stuff. It's like panels really, so it's not the entirety of it from what I can tell, but some interesting stuff there.
Yeah, Tempest Fugonaut. I remember reading something about that.
Sideways, a Dan Didio book.
Yes. Yeah. I gotta check that out. I gotta check it out.
It's on the Discord.
I'll take a look at it in a moment. Amin with the 10 spot. Thank you guys for keeping the super chats coming. Really appreciate it. Doomsday Clock and Rorschach are exactly what I wanted from a Watchmen sequel idea. And Death Metal is exactly what I despise about that idea. Slow kicking something versus microwaving it. No doubt.
That's why I don't use a microwave.
Completely right. Samuel Summers with a 5 spot. I got called into work on a Saturday morning. I'm still here though. I'd happily pay $25 for an extra hour of the Comics Pals to get through this. Thank you, brother. Really appreciate that.
Rough to get called in, but keep trucking, dude.
That sucks.
Kyle says, as someone who has never read any DC material, I'm very excited to get to Death Metal just to see how it works as a capstone for a new reader.
Have fun.
Rel asks, was Medler going to get rid of Damian? How is Lucius Fox's son going to be Batman? What happened to Damian? There would have been more than one Batman.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And Damian would have been there was a Batman event where Damian was going to fight with Luke, if I recall correctly.
Wasn't the plan to like have Damien lean more towards the Roz side of things?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Battle
be
for
the
the
real
Cowl.
son of the demon.
Yeah. Atomic Hound with another $20 super chat. Thank you so much. Amazing job, Sean. Well done. The best comics channel and community going. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
I consider death metal to be the end of Rebirth.
The death knell.
Yes. Because that is where Infinite Frontier kicks off, but it's also where you lose Snyder for a few years and where you lose Dan Didio, arguably the anchor of DC Comics for his 20-year tenure with the company that was now over. Dan Didio's firing sent shockwaves through the comic book industry. It had significant impact, whether people like Dan or don't like Dan. A lot of people had things to say about his firing and what it meant for comics. And Heidi McDonald wrote an incredible article in 2020 about this firing. And she had a lot of interesting things to say about Didio as a person, his perspective on comics, why he was fired, the things he did right or wrong. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I'll read a little bit, though. And I think it's important to start from right here. Didio loved the comic book format and specifically DC comic books. And over the years that he oversaw DC, he was the singular driving force behind what you picked up on the stands, for better or worse. Call it passion, call it micromanaging. It was a tumultuous, drama-filled journey, but one that forged the kind of relationships that only drama can create. If the outpouring of emotion of Didio's departure on Twitter showed anything, it was that he truly had forged a bond of friendship with a lot of creators and championed a lot of today's biggest stars, and not always the ones you would have expected. And I'm going to pause right there because Didio gets a lot of shit. But I don't want it to be undersold. The fact that without Didio's championing, creators like Grant Morrison have a harder time finding success. Scott Snyder got the big job on Batman because of Dan Didio's decision.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have happened. Think about any other publication giving Batman #1 to a newer writer. That's a little crazy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I mean, for the entirety, to whatever degree it was a success or not, the influx of new readership, myself included, with New 52.
Yeah. Yep. And New 52 was his brainchild by and large. That's what he wanted. And whether you like the New 52 or not, it brought a ton of people into the fold, and it served as the blueprint for so much of what the animated stuff was at the time, which people really adore. So, and also sales. Sales don't lie. And under Dan Didio's tenure, DC did tremendous numbers. Think about the 2000s, right? Back to Heidi. But there was also the knowledge that it was the end of an era, as I called it here many times, the crisis era. And to see the label Age of Crisis applied to one of the Generation 1 shots that was to launch in May is pretty hilarious. The histories of DC and Marvel from the Silver Age to today show two different and opposite strategies. Stan and Jack's Marvel Universe launched with a few pieces of the old timely world, but it was pretty much full speed ahead. Any problems could be fixed with an editor's note. At DC, however, the very birth of their hero line was a direct reference to somehow making the timeline fit. Flash of two worlds, Earth 1 and Earth 2. Editor Julius Shortz's need for tying things up would set off an ongoing editorial crisis that lasts to this day. And to think this was before fandom was even a thing. I think that's an incredible piece of history to understand. It's also important to understand there were no more crises that we got at any other time more than DIDIO'S period.
True.
Identity, Infinite, Final, Death Metal, and Dark Knight's Metal would have been Crisis's by name, could DIDIO have had them, but they're crises of another sort. And then, of course, we have Heroes in Crisis, which is a crisis akin to Identity Crisis. So DC was Crisis Comics.
Hmm.
Is that a good or a bad thing? I don't know. I also know that the comics were bloody and violent. Identity Crisis primary inciting incident is a rape, which is an extremely dark thing to use for what is supposed to be a commercial, reader friendly event.
I remember,
There's
what was it? Forever Evil, also pretty violent book.
highly violent. Yeah. Look, I think that there's a lot of good and I think there's a lot of bad behind Dan Didio. But make no mistake about it, the environment that he created during the 5G era is the reason he was fired. 100%. Here it is from Bleeding Cool. I am told by sources close to the situation that he was fired for cause for fostering a poor work environment, as evidenced, as we previously stated, by significant departures at the publisher by editors. There was a rash of exits at this time. And DC Comics was heading towards a big change in its publishing program, 5G, which would have seen DC's major figures, you guys already know, blah, blah, blah. And some folks at DC were very much against this. In recent months, there seemed to have been editorial backtracks on the direction given. Details changed and a general sense of frustration that the clock was ticking and nothing was being done. Snyder and Didio weren't eye to eye. I told you guys all that, and ultimately that's why he was fired.
Damn.
That's the biggest event that happened in, forget a crisis, DIDIO'S exit is the biggest event that happened in DC in 20 years.
100%, yeah.
Go for it.
The direct hiring of Marie Javins in the role that Didio left, there's gonna be a lot to be said about her being able to just make sure that ship didn't crash after losing its captain, you know?
Well, he was publisher at the time, and she was hired as co-editor in chief. Or sorry, was he the co-publisher at the time? At that
He's
point?
co-publisher, yes.
Yeah. So she would have come in as editor in chief. Because I was looking at this earlier during that same Warner Media shakeup, which happened like the summer, alongside Michelle R. Wells, somebody I guess from corporate, before finally she was alone in the role by November, so closer to the end of the year, where she finally in 2021 is probably where she could actually exact influence.
Yeah. And think about the upward trajectory. Like if you look at Night Terrors, right? And you say, wow, that was an abomination. Just about everything that DC has done after that has worked.
Yeah.
From Absolute Power forward, DC has been a juggernaut. And the creators are still there. Scott Snyder's there. Williamson's there. Morrison just came back. All the creatives are there.
Yeah.
There's one difference, and it's Dan. So maybe the way to look at it is you either die a hero or you live long enough to see yourself become the villain.
There it is.
Dan
Over
Didio
here.
was the golden boy of DC in the 2000s. And even though he had the exact same management strategy, it produced banger after banger after banger. That same juice was squeezed out of him by the time he left. And his last big play was so alienating to not only the creators, but DC's brass that they kicked him out.
It's one of those situations where you get enough power. You want to direct the ship enough, but you do so in a way that isn't collaborative. And comics are just that. It is collaboration, and to be leading the ship, to be actively in conflict with your writers, to be in conflict with the overall direction and message. That was a moment where um, he had to make a choice of letting it go or pushing forward, and he stepped on the gas pedal, and that causes friction, rubber to the road, not only in terms of propulsion, but in the way that you affect the people around you.
Rubber bands. I mean, look at that kind of complete control. What's the opposite of that? Creator focus stuff, right? Where the creators kind of control that.
Yeah, that's a
You
great
know
point.
what that is? That's absolute DC. So
That yeah.
indirectly, one could argue Dan Didio and what he did at DC would not have potentially inspired what Absolute Comics is right now.
Hmm.
I don't maybe argue that. I argue that wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Because Absolute is the synthesis. Absolute and All In are the synthesis of what the New 52 and Rebirth were trying to be.
Yeah.
Dan Didio simply couldn't figure out what the current iteration of DC's editorial has figured out, which is that you can have your cake and eat it too.
Yep.
And it's unfortunate that he didn't see that because Marvel had already seen it in the 2000s and it worked. But Didio's defiance, his need to push comics forward, which is just not what the industry wanted to do, was his undoing. And mostly because he hadn't figured out a way to integrate his creators into the equation.
Yep. It needed to his biggest op to figure that out.
Yeah, we're talking about Marie Javins right now, but Absolute and All In were not her idea.
Yeah.
That was Scott Snyder and Williamson. And then a little later, Chris Conroy and Katie Kubert on the editorial side. Creators drove this level of success, not editors. And if there's any lesson to get out of this deep dive, it's that sometimes you, as the overseer, have to get out of the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Railroading everyone just makes a bad work environment.
Creative environments need a near perfect synthesis of overseeing and creators doing the work. But I think, personally, most of the time, it's probably better to let the creators cook.
And that's why our next deep dive will be the Krakoa era.
That's not true, by the way.
Where we will completely disregard what Sean just said.
That's it, guys. That's the DC Rebirth deep dive. All 4 parts.
Congrats. Kudos, Sean, as always.
Yeah, good shit.
Thank you.
You can actually rest now.
We still have a
rest
whole
easy.
show to
We'll
do.
keep watch of Valhalla.
I hope you guys enjoyed it. These deep dives are a labor of love on my part. I deeply, deeply love doing them. For Dan Didio's part, he's landed on his feet just fine.
Yeah.
He did the Frank Miller Presents stuff, which, didn't last, but it was cool for him to be a part of. Got to work with Frank again. He's been writing comics. He wrote his first novel not that long ago. So he's doing okay. And DC, of course, is doing tremendously. So all's well that ends well. Everybody happy. MP with the $9.99, thank you so much. Seems the core issue of time/change 5G wanted to address was resolved by All In. Didio wanted the old and new in the same continuity, yes. Absolute All In bringing back to Earth model is a better solution, yes.
Yep.
And they look to their past to figure that out. So, beautiful stuff. Dan is fucking rich. He is fine. You're right, Foxtastic.
Okay.
Sam says, fantastic stuff, Sean. Top-notch delivery. I can imagine keeping the pace of 5 years of DC history is a challenge. And the biggest challenge, and thank you for saying that, the biggest challenge is that these eras are not like the retrospective reporting hasn't happened yet.
Yeah.
So most of it is just me taking what people were saying in real time and contextualizing it for this.
Yeah, because
But,
we're only we're only 5 years away from this stuff.
yeah,
Really. So just wait.
yeah. So thank you guys so much for your appreciation of this. Watch the 5G deep dive if you're curious and you want more of our knowledge of that era. It's very comprehensive and very interesting.
Yeah.
Morbidly so. But yeah, we've got a lot more show to do and not a lot of time to do it in. So let's run it. This Monday is the official finale of Rebirth Month because you guys chose Super Sons as the book to represent Rebirth for the book club. 8 p.m. Eastern, this Monday is when we will be having our conversation about that title, so don't miss it. It'll be super fun. Talking about Super Sons.
Tomasi Jimenez, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
which you know
bro.
what? I did not expect.
Yeah.
Slott.
That was cool.
What's the next deep dive? I'm not prepared to say that. But there are a lot of potential options. If you've been listening for a while and you pay attention, the one I really wanted to do this year first was All New, All Different. That's the one I wanted to do most.
On a DC
Um,
podcast?
I know, right? I can almost guarantee you the next deep dive will be a Marvel deep dive.
Have we? No.
We done one?
Ultimate. We did
Yes.
Ultimates, yeah.
MP has been a member of the channel for 14 months. A viewer, though, I imagine far longer than
Yeah.
that.
Yes. Yeah.
Says, I'd love to see a deep dive on DC's post-crisis reboot. Yeah, that'll happen.
Stay
Definitely.
tuned.
Definitely. Jim Shooter deep dive. That's one of the ones I have written
Mm.
out on my short list.
That would be really nice.
Yeah. Weird World deep dive. Oh God.
That would be 10 minutes long. It'll be a very shallow deep dive.
I wouldn't even know what to say.
It's a book. I actually like the book. It's Jason Aaron, Mike Del Mundo. Like that alone.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Spun out
Marvel
of
Knights. Sorry.
No, it's spun out of the Secret Wars. It was one of those like Secret Wars books, and I think it continued post Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
CW Gordon, Red Band deep dive. Banned. Can't do it.
Yeah. Electra says, still loving the Rebirth deep dive, no notes. Well, Electrics, it's over. So I hope you have enjoyed it, but now we are done. The show will go back to being about normal things, except for the fact that next month and the following month are going to be fucking crazy.
Stay tuned.
Calendar
We
is a
have-
little packed, guys.
We have so many things coming your way in
Yeah.
April.
Everybody,
And go ahead.
honestly, everybody came out the woodwork to want to chat.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for Alan Moore to respond to my psychic pings, but everyone else seems to be pretty good at getting back to us.
You got to do the circles, dude. I saw a raven fly by the other day. I thought it might have been him.
Really?
I
Simone?
thought so.
What's she doing?
You also might notice that this is episode 493
Yes.
of the Comics Pals. What's going to happen in 7 Saturdays
Reboot.
when we get to 500?
Yep.
Yeah, dude. We're reboot, and then we go to legacy numbering.
I come back as a Asian actor instead. Yeah, we're gonna recast.
Were you never? Wait.
Debatable.
I must step away for 1 minute.
Should I roll?
So
Should I spin?
do whatever you feel like doing.
We're gonna
for 1
spin, and we're
minute.
gonna spin. Well, Sean. Okay, Marco, do you have any books that you want to highlight this week?
Oh, I did finish reading the first volume of Speed Racer. David Pepos.
Oh, you finally got to it.
Yeah, David Pepos, David Tinto on art. Um, I got it digitally, so I don't have it on me. My iPad's not around, but
Sure.
I really enjoyed it. It's just been fun, wacky. The plot is lighthearted. Speed is the sibling of Rex Racer, who was a famous uh, driver who died unfortunately after this going onto this team called the Cats team, and there's history there that I can recognize I'm not as familiar with, but it makes it fun to explore. And I think the way that David Pepos writes, he allows for me to kind of discover it along the way,
Okay.
and he kind of rolls that out in a very succinct, but also in a very meaningful way. Like you get to feel the love and the passion. There's some stuff that's going to be happening with Racer X, who may or may not be uh, Speed's brother, who actually faked his death in order to like be this vigilante. It's cool, man. It's really really cool. Um,
Did you have familiarity with Speed Racer before this?
no,
Okay.
I mean I know of it, right? Like
Sure.
through osmosis, through general osmosis, but not anything that I can say I've actually read the book. Shu Patel here says, yeah, his Space Ghost is incredible. You know what? Based off this alone, I want to turn to that. We are on his distribution list, so to be honest, I did read the PDF that he sent us, as well as I did buy all of the issues, but I read it digitally. And the issue 6 I have on the stack, and issue 7 is coming out next week. So stay tuned.
Yes, it is.
Did you guys
Ooh,
catch Big Busta's membership?
Not yet.
just about to shout it.
And then we
Big
have another
Busta.
thing as well.
Rafael Feliciano Padua has received a gifted membership. Enjoy that.
Thank you.
Skyfish has been a member for 3 months. Said member or maybe an Ike Perlmutter and X-Men Fantastic Four deep dive.
What's like
if
up
I
to
were-
these days? Is he free? Can we get him on the show?
He's donating money to Trump still, probably
Okay.
Yikes.
Cool.
funding that guy's life. If I were gonna talk about that stuff, I would talk about it in the middle of another deep dive.
Oh, and I know which one.
Which one?
Oh, I know that's Fox. Never mind. I was thinking the Sony. I know you always want to do your Sony League deep dive, which came up recently because what's his face who wrote who's gonna write the Sinister Six movie?
Yes. Yes. Drew Goddard.
Drew Goddard. Yeah, he just wrote Project Hail Mary, and he was talking about that.
Oh,
That's right. I wanted to go see. I was trying to figure out what did I want to do yesterday. I want to go see that.
You got Sean. You would like it. I think you really like that movie. Figure out a
I've
way
heard
to see
good
it if you can.
things.
Yeah. Aren't you A-list?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just if I would have done that, I wouldn't have been. I needed to focus on this.
You're free.
dive, but
Rebirth. Your
now that I'm
shackles are
free,
gone.
I'm back, and the origins are gonna come, guys. We're gonna get those origins for those of you who are owed them. Thank you so much for your patience. You guys are phenomenal. Everything we're gonna have so many guests. Guests are coming back.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cost of doing one of these deep dives. Is that the show kind of has to focus on it.
yeah.
Yeah, the show has to focus on it, right, Mark?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah.
For episode 500, right? If we were to reboot, I see some names here getting thrown around. We got Rel YouTube saying Comics Pals new #1, Last Young Renegade the new Comics Pals #1. There's another one, just general season 2. I'm curious if you guys have
Just got a new logo.
That's what I'm saying. I'm curious if you guys have a preferred adjective or like where that would go.
Mind you, None of that is going to happen.
Right. Yeah.
You don't want like a Sensational Comics Pals or the Astonishing Comics Pals?
Mm-mm.
Uncanny.
Uncanny Comics Pals.
I like that.
I don't hate that. I don't hate that.
Sam says, do you let us know in advance if your origin will be featured on the show? Yeah, I tend to say whose origin is coming up next. When I'm reading off the names. You've had yours though, have you not? I'm pretty sure. Frickin' Marco did it for you. No?
Last Young Renegade?
Yeah. Pretty
I'd
sure.
have to go back through my list.
Tell you it wasn't me.
Whoa, yo, Patrick Zay Big Brain over here. He says, just drop the. Ooh, what a quote.
Be Comics Pals.
That was a discussion you had almost a decade ago.
Yeah. We had a
We
lot
did.
of that.
Do you remember some of the names you almost had? No, we'll save that for 500.
Sure.
Yeah, I do actually. There was one that I was gunning for in particular.
I don't remember, so I would love to hear what that was.
The Muckmen.
But yeah, I agree. We'll talk about that later. Top 5 DC Rebirth series, number 1. Let's do it.
Number 1.
Oh, number 1. It was
It's the one you actually read.
the one I actually read. The Dark Knight 3 Master Race.
Again, I'm not sure this fits.
It doesn't, but go ahead.
It came out during that era. I swear to you, I could not find anything that was outside of Young Animal or Sandman at the time that I was reading, outside of the other books that I mentioned, like my 3 and through 5. But this was rad as heck. I loved the little mini comics inside that they would be paired with. I thought it was a great continuation of what I thought was a return to form, because I didn't like the Dark Knight 2. That's a book that I personally pan. And so
No, you could be wrong. That's fine.
I mean, but yeah, Master Race, who this was Frank Miller, Klaus Janson. You had Brian Azzarello, who's also helping out on scripts. So a really strong team that I think delivered a cool story. I really appreciated it. So for anybody who wants to continue past or continue in that universe, that aspect of the DC universe, I recommend you keep going through to Master Race. That was a good book.
Cool. All right. So what do we learn here is that Marco is pro Master Race. Psh, I didn't say it.
I said it with my chest. Batman Dark Knight.
All right. Well, mine is an actual Rebirth book. And you know what, guys? We're stroking it. Deathstroke by Priest. Deathstroke by Priest and Carlo Pagulian. I always fuck that one up. Sorry.
Pagulian.
Yeah. Ran for 50 issues, which it says something about a Deathstroke-led title, which it had, since 52 had been kind of a mainstay in comics. But Priest really kind of put a real good spin on the book, because Deathstroke in his run is a piece of shit. He's a bad guy. There's an arc there where he gets like a white suit where he tries to, not break bad, but break good. But the way Priest tells stories is really jumped out to me in this run. This is akin to the way he tells stories in the current Marvel Knights book he's doing, World to Come. It's a lot of jumping to a place, like saying, hey, this is the time and location we're in. Let me tell a story here. We're going to go to another time and location in this part of the issue, and kind of like weave that throughout. So like his current modern way of telling stories really jumped out to me in this run. Great supporting cast. Wintergreen, Ravager is in this, both of his sons, and the effects of him being a horrible dad are throughout this. It's just family trauma in the book. Yes, there's some assassinations as well. But man, it's such a good book. Sean, I think you would like it, Sean, to be honest. But yeah, great book. Deathstroke.
It's the only Rebirth title that I haven't read that's like I need to read it.
Sure.
Because you've talked about it so much, and then like I was on Near Mint Condition, we were talking about Rebirth, and people were talking about that book, so I feel like I missed the boat.
You got some buzz on it. That's intrigued you, at least.
Yeah. My number one is not actually a Rebirth ongoing,
Hmm.
but it is a Rebirth event. My number one is Doomsday Clock.
Oh yeah.
Doomsday Clock is my favorite story to come out of Rebirth by a country mile. It's my favorite DC event by a country mile. I know there are some people who don't consider it an event. I don't understand that. But in my opinion, it is. And based on that logic, I consider it to be DC's best event for me. Um, it's so much more than a Watchmen sequel. It is a love letter to DC Comics. It's a love letter to Superman. It's a conversation between two universes. Um, in a very like strange, bizarre way, it's kind of what I would really want from a Marvel DC crossover. Something with meat, something that has something to say that's interesting. Um, it's such a respectful usage of the Watchmen characters, in my opinion. It's meaningfully additive. It's gorgeous. Gary Frank and Brad Anderson are just a tremendous visual creative team, and Gary was able to bring so much of what Dave Gibbons did with that initial Watchmen series to this, with the usage of the 9-panel grid. Um, the back matter was also great. The Nathaniel Dusk stuff. It's a beautiful tome. I got the Absolute Edition for the book club, and it's one of my favorite purchases I've ever made. That fucking picture it comes with, I couldn't believe it.
I'm so fucking jealous of that dude.
So yeah, Doomsday Clock for me is everything, and I deeply, deeply love it as um just as a story. It's amazing.
If only we did a book club about it. No.
I know. And that book club really is a part of this deep dive. Like, you
Mhm.
really are missing stuff if you haven't heard that yet. So
Tune in.
I missed some super chats that I see now earlier. Easy Bake Lovin', who's been hanging around us lately. Definitely seeing more of her, and that's cool. 5 spot, I don't have anything to say, but I want the Wout game to happen. Awesome. Well, it's gonna happen. You
It
guys
is,
have
yeah.
secured it. Chop Harder Alchemist with $4.99. Woke Game Bucks. Hanging by the deep dive campfire and waiting for my Superman Triangle area, Volume 1 and 2 Omnis to arrive. Bendis splooge that like button.
Ew.
There it is.
I like how that's now officially the Bendis splooge.
I'm gonna come.
I have too many cum sounds, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's gross.
Is that telling? Oh,
Flo Dameron with a $4.99. Hanging Hog in blue paint watching this episode. Post that on the Discord.
Oh no,
if
hold
you're
on.
really
whoa,
about it.
whoa. Blur it, blur it.
Andrew Dunson with a $4.99 or $1.99. Death Metal may be the worst book brought up today. Eh, Superman was rough.
Yeah, Superman was
Man
rough.
of Steel in particular was rough.
Legion was rough.
Yeah.
Man, I hate Bash and Bendis. But like, yeah, some of that was not great.
Alas.
Dunson for $4.99 brings up, for all the shit DD gets, Dan Didio, he was at the helm of DC during its hottest, most must-read period. Every book was essential, only now compares. I completely agree with you. And, this deep dive features a lot of negative things said about Didio. We called him the meddler and all that. Genuinely, all of that from me is love. Like, I'm poking fun. I'm having fun as a show, but I don't have negative feelings about Dan Didio. I think he's awesome, and I would love to have him on the show. And if I had him on the show, we would talk about this stuff.
Yeah. He wasn't my boss.
Right.
He didn't piss me off.
Yeah. So I would love that. Be great. Cool. So we got those out of the way. Now, Atomic Hound did send in a Patreon pal question. So Marco, if you want to read that, if you have it,
I
be
got it.
great.
Yeah. He says, Was KO a potential off ramp for the Absolute Initiative and All In if things were not going well for DC? If so, any thoughts on what that cut could have looked like?
Maybe. I think they I vaguely remember them talking about this. But like I think the integration of the absolute characters at the end of DCKO could have been a clear cut for that world if they needed to.
Hmm. I don't see it as an off ramp.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like DC's in a spot where they're committing to the bit, for lack of a better word. They're sticking to their guns, and so if it was right, if it was, I feel like maybe you just stick back to the core, the core things you were doing, the mainline things. You don't go to these like next level books because the
Yeah.
next level books feel additive to the line, but also in a different space. They're occupying it like different space.
I think that's an interesting thought, Hound, and I think that a lot of writers, when they're crafting these like big gargantuan stories, create spaces where it's like, okay, if this isn't working, we can end it here.
Hmm.
And I definitely think that let's say that the numbers weren't great. I could easily see a scenario where KO is the end of this story. Um, and yeah, okay, so Superman's not around, whatever, you can deal with that, but the universe ends up being like angled towards Superman's energy. It seems like we're dealing with alpha energy,
Yeah.
and you don't have to continue the dark side stuff if you don't want to.
It's open ended enough. Superman could have come back in the next issue,
Yeah, I think you're right. It definitely could have been an off ramp for sure. But thank you for submitting that. And by the way, a lot of you don't use this, but our patrons at the highest tier, you guys can submit us Patreon pal questions once a month. Like all of you can do that.
Yep.
So please use it. It's a free perk. Well, it's not a free perk, but it's a perk you're getting that you are potentially not using. So we want you guys to have a voice on the show in that way.
Make your voices heard.
Yeah. Let's get into the news. And the first bit of news we have to tackle, unfortunately, is not good because I have the unfortunate responsibility once again of reporting on the death of a comic book legend. This time we're talking about Sam Keith,
Hmm.
who created the Max. Um, Unfortunately, he had dementia.
It's a bad
He
one.
had Lewy body dementia, which is apparently a combination of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's.
That fucking
Hmm.
sucks, dude.
He passed at 63 years old,
It's young.
um, very young.
Yeah.
We're talking about someone who just when you look at the Max, when I look at the Max, and I've never read it, I have no relationship to Sam Keith's work, and I say that with some level of embarrassment, but it is the truth. But when I look at his style, like I can see this
Yeah.
in a lot of artists that have come before. Like even the way he draws Batman, which I've seen this image many times, it's so like exaggerated and like cartoony almost and expressionistic, and it's very cool to see Batman like that. So
Hmm.
when you get a creator who's going to bring their uniqueness to an iconic character, it can create special images like this one of the Max and Batman together.
Yeah.
And to that, he was the co-creator of the Sandman,
Yes.
the updated one with Neil Gaiman. So we've also read some of his work, in action, um, which is transformative to the series, transformative to uh mainline comics at that point. Apropos for Vertigo. But yeah, this is incredibly sad because he's a huge writer and his output has obviously been diminished. because of these diseases, we haven't seen, more from him. So we've also just lost an opportunity.
Yeah.
And like Sean's right, like you can see like the influence that Keith's art probably would have on modern day comics, but like at the same time, you look at a piece of Sam Keith art without his signature on it and without knowing who it is, you know it's Sam Keith.
Yeah.
And I'm not even one who's read the Max. Like I've read the Sandman stuff, but my knowledge on actually having read Keith's work is pretty low. But I can pick his art out of a lineup easily. His Wolverine is one of my favorites. Just fucking gnarly looking.
Yeah.
Um,
This is the kind of like thing that I would imagine Daniel Warren Johnson is influenced by,
I bet, whether consciously or subconsciously,
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. 100%. And, 63 is so young to go, but you're talking about someone who had such an incredible impact on, and not even just comics, like reading through this Bleeding Cool article, this dude wrote the pilot for Cow and Chicken,
Oh, really?
Whoa.
I mean, he had
which I
worked
watched.
on the Max original series TV show for MTV, so he was well in the animation side too.
Yeah,
I love Cow and Chicken.
me too, bro.
You big what's a Red Guy fan?
Red guy.
Oh, it's like IR Baboon.
Yeah.
Oh
Basically
yeah,
the-
yeah.
Still remember
So
that shit. Yeah.
rest in peace to one of the goats. Just an unbelievably influential creator. And if you go on social, such an outpouring of love and support for him. He is survived by his wife, Kathy Keith. And so, certainly now is a difficult time for her and the family. But, for our purposes, the only message I really want to leave with is thank you to Sam for all the contributions, and making this industry better by being a part of it, and changing the game from a visual standpoint, having a hand in that.
Yeah.
So thank you. Electrics, Red Spiral, how do you submit a Patreon pal question? Just DM me. Or you can DM me, or you can DM the Comics Pals Patreon account, but I'll see it either way and I'll get it into the notes. Electrics with the 200 SEK. I wish I knew what that translated to, but it's probably $20.
I think so.
Can't speak for others, but I forget many of my perks. Often I'm happy to support and see where the general consensus goes, and swaying vote or not spend some more support super chatting.
Appreciate you.
Thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
So it's a 5 spot in USD.
Oh, okay. Okay.
I'm seeing. Wait, it's Corona, right?
Corona, yeah.
It's showing as 21.
Yeah, because the fact that it came up orange,
Yeah, orange.
means
Once your
that,
orange hits 20,
Oh,
yeah.
really?
yeah, it has to be.
You got to update your firmware, Marco. Jeez, the Marco bots out of date. Ever since Sora got removed, you've been downhill.
That's not poor taste, Electrics. No worries, man. One of the things that's difficult about doing this is that the show must go on, literally. Like, we cannot just stop. Like Sam is gone, and that sucks. And it's a downer, but we are going to have fun for the rest of the show. That's just how it is. Common sense with the 199. Sam Keith Scratch is part of DC Universe. Use him.
I just looked him up. He's rad looking. He's like if a werewolf and the Tasmanian devil were drawn by Sam Keith. I just put him on the screen. You know what? Yes, I'm into it.
Wow, cool.
Young werewolf, throw him on the fucking New Titans, I guess.
Whoa.
He's just a werewolf.
Yeah.
That's fucking rad.
Right?
Oh, he had a solo series. That's where
Yeah,
he first
yeah, he
appeared.
did.
Whoa.
Sick. I'm actually intrigued by this.
Executive editor, Dan Didio.
Batman's in it. Oh, shit. Okay. Wow. I didn't even know about this. Sam said Gemini failed us for the last time. Marco coming through with that false chat GPT info quick.
He's hallucinating. He's hallucinating.
Oh, I put 20, not 200.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah.
Oh,
you-
okay.
Forgot the decimal
Sorry.
point.
We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna skip past the Boom and Distillery news this week. Headline: Boom Studios has laid people off. That's terrible. We'll dive more into that next week. Distillery is back.
That's terrible. We'll dive more back into that next week.
It's fucked too because I really wanted to talk about that, but we simply don't have time.
Yeah.
But we'll get to it next week if it's more appropriate. What I do want to spend a little bit of time on, if we can, first is saying that Powers is the Michael Avon Oming Bendis cop comic book, detective comic book about character or people that are generating powers and this division of the department that's meant to keep that all in line. Animated series coming to fucking Netflix.
Yes,
What-
dude. Yes.
Within the press release, they talked about like explicitly working with Oming specifically for this, because I think Oming's art style is so integral to what this book is
Totally.
that if you're going to do an adaptation, you need to lean into that. And I would argue Oming's art style would probably look great in animation.
100%. 100%. Yo, this is freaking rad, dude. I think it lends itself better to animation than it does, the Powers live action. To be fair, I haven't seen it, but I think because of his style, this is going to be a better fit here. You can do
Yeah.
more. You can probably, especially with the range of powers, I think it would allow you to just do crazy stuff, especially for how violent this book can get.
Not only that, it's on a platform that people watch, not the PlayStation Network.
Hey, now.
Couldn't agree anymore. I think Powers makes a ton of sense as an animated series.
Yeah.
Especially if you want to do something a little bit longer form potentially. I think those, putting those powers on screen with CG and whatnot is super expensive. And hard to keep up on a live action schedule. And I don't want the series to be lesser for trying to do that. So let's just make it animated. I think that's genius. Hats off to whoever it was at Netflix that saw this and said, "Yeah, that makes sense." And then, of course, huge shout out to Bendis and Oming for this happening. I have to imagine it feels like a redemption for the debacle that was the Powers on PlayStation.
Yeah.
And it's also funny because Monstrous also announced as an animated series coming out. And what was it, only a month ago at Comics Pro? This is what Kirkman was saying.
Yeah.
That the future that we can look into comics is the Invincible method, and that manga anime-esque pipeline that is comic book and then animated adaptation. And less than a month later, two of the probably bigger known independent comics get animated adaptations at big streamers.
Yeah.
Because I think streamers are realizing, like, hey, animation cheap to produce, and the turnaround time on it is quicker than live action with all the CG and stuff.
And there's a third prong there, which is that it's the best way. Well, I don't know if it's the best way, but it is, in my opinion, in my mind, it's the easiest way to give you the exact thing you want from the comic. Like, look at the Invincible show. Originally, there was talk of a live action Invincible movie that would have starred Stephen Yeun in the role. And there were a lot of people who said, well, I don't see Invincible and see Stephen Yeun. He's the voice of the character in the show.
Yep.
But the character still looks like the Invincible that you're used to. So you get what you want in that space. They're not going to fuck with his costume. They're not going to take the color out of it. They're not going to do all that extra bullshit that happens so often in live action, where in the animated spaces, typically we get something that's a little more faithful.
I mean, at least apparently the animated space did redo Omni-Man's costume to be white and red, where in the comics it was blue and red.
Oh, well, I didn't know that.
Apparently the internet didn't either, and Otley was telling people some news because it's the most golden. What is it? What's the dress thing? It was like a
Oh,
golden
the-
white.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Look up early Omni-Man, which is apparently supposed to be a light blue,
Oh,
and I could have sworn this entire time it was white.
are we sure this isn't a Mandela effect?
It's oddly explicitly saying it, so I don't know.
Oh, I see it. Okay, I see it.
I thought it was like white in shading, but
But it's not. It is a it is a light blue that I guess you can interpret as a white. Huh.
you're right, Sean. Comics and animation probably the closest one-to-one we're gonna get.
Yeah.
And Jay said, just make a point. In the show, Mark and Debbie look a little more Asian. That is true, and
Sure.
and they did that because of the actor playing the character. And I don't think that meaningfully changes anything, because Invincible is so like doggedly about Mark's life story.
Yep.
I don't think that changes anything meaningful. But yeah, hats off to Powers. I'm actually really pumped for this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm more interested in watching it as animated than I ever was watching the live action. I didn't watch any of the live action.
Yeah.
Dude, I have PlayStation Plus. I literally always have, and I couldn't tell you how I could have watched it. I have
Same.
no clue.
Same. Did I have to like mail in a UMD to put on my PSP? Like, what was the deal?
I truly, genuinely don't know. But anyway, this is something that I will watch for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, and especially on a on a streaming service that I still subscribe to.
Yep.
Because for what it's worth, Invincible on Amazon, I don't have it no more.
Oh, Mr. NYC said they were always supposed to be Asian. Okay, I didn't know that. Thank you. I didn't know that. Reading those initial Invincible comics, I didn't pick up on that, but I guess I just missed it. But yeah, the only other news story that I really wanted to tackle here, and we don't have to belabor it too much. We don't have time to, but it's been all over the internet, and it's Dan Slott. It's the Spectacular Spider-Man Dan Slott drama. And I have a really simple answer as to how I feel about this, but I want to set the frame. So everybody remembers, if you listen to the show for a while, you remember us reporting that Dan Buckley, who is the publisher of Marvel, explicitly said 2 years ago that, maybe it was last year, but it was when Blood Hunt was happening, that Marvel is now in a space where they are greenlighting books for 10 issues at a time, not 5. Certainly we all remember that Dan said this. In fact, I have it. It was 2 years ago. Well, Dan Slott went on Word Balloon, which is hosted by John Suntress, one of the most tenured people who do what we do.
Yep.
And he talked about the Spectacular Spider-Man series that's coming out. And a lot of channels framed this, what I'm about to say, as Dan Slott begging, Dan Slott crying for you to support his book. That is not the framing that I want to use here. I think that's all fucking stupid.
Yeah, I had to call some guy out on Threads for that. Yeah.
Oh, you did? Good.
Yeah, he's fucking being an idiot.
Good. Here's what Dan actually said. And I'm going to read the whole quote. I'm not going to pick it apart. If you are a reader and you loved reading, you had fun reading my run on Spider-Man and you want more of it, please put those on your pull list now. The final order cutoff for the first issue is March 30th. Please put it on your pull list. If you are a retailer, we know you're going to order issue 1. This is me talking to you. I need you on issue 2. When it's time to put your orders in for 2, I need you to order it like you're ordering Dan Slott's Spider-Man comic for issue 2 instead of, hey, there's like 12 other books with blind bags and I'm going to put all my money into that. We're at a point now where Marvel books come out, no matter what they are, they're lined up for 5 issues at a time. And what that means is if you don't support issues 2 and 3, these books will go away by issue 5. If you, as a retailer, want a book on the stand to be perennial, you've got to help me out. You've got to get me past 5. And the way to do that is to order well on 2 and order well on 3. This is even called, even though it's called Spectacular Spider-Man Brand New Day, and this first arc is set in the Brand New Day era, the next arc will pop it into the present, and this will be your Spectacular Spider-Man book. And you know, you would like to have more books on the rack. You would like there to be a Detective Comics with your Batman.
Hmm.
He said more. Everything he says is reiterating what I just read.
Yeah.
What part of that sounded like crying? Like, is he asking you for your support? Yes. If you wanted to be negative, you could use the word begging. But I don't see what's wrong with a creator coming to us, the audience, and saying, hey, if you like what I do, buy my book.
There was also part of it that was like the beginning part of the quote where he's telling people to pre-order it. It's like, hey, if you plan on getting the book, pre-order it.
Right.
Not even like trying to get new readers. It's like, no, if you want this book, you need to pre-order it so Marvel knows you want it. Because that pre-order is so important now.
And the fact that you're coming onto a space to promote that, to be able to, share in that information, right? Like that's the goal, right? Like we're activated individuals.
The goal is to get people to buy my book?
What a
Yeah.
crime.
Huh.
What a piece of shit.
Yeah.
How dare he? What is he gonna
And
fucking
Tyler-
kill Peter Parker again now?
Tyler brings up a good point. Is he's not specifically saying buy the book. He's saying pre-order the book,
Yeah.
which is a different. It's not the same thing.
Yeah. In my eyes,
And
it's like
most
saying
readers
like,
don't do that.
yeah, like you already plan on getting it. Good. Please pre-order it if you plan on getting it already.
Right.
Yeah, that's exactly right. I'm buying the book regardless.
Yeah.
But I don't pre-order anything.
Yeah, it's true. You're part of the problem.
I am part of the problem.
You're the reason Marvel is the way it is right now. Nice job, Sean.
But there was a part of what Dan said that was new information.
Yeah.
Because again, 2 years ago, Dan Buckley said he was in a position where he was approving Marvel books for 10 issues at a time. Dan is saying we're at 5.
Yep.
Look at what just happened with Imperial.
Oh yeah. Yep.
When did all those books get canceled at?
5. They had to add a 6 just to have them wrap it up.
Well, they got canceled, but I mean, by issue 2.
Yeah.
So please go out and pre-order.
That's such a fucking shitty way of running a business.
There is no industry that I'm aware of that relies more on its audience to be smart about the way the business works than comics.
Yeah.
If you don't pre-order the new Call of Duty game, everything's going to be fine.
Comics, you need to know the secret handshake. And the Marvel, DC, they're not going to tell you how the secret handshake works. The people that buy from them need to tell you.
The only reason they have pre-orders for video games is so they can get your money earlier.
Yeah.
But they know you're going to buy it.
Yeah.
Comics don't work like that. By the time you go to your LCS and buy the book, its fate is already sealed.
Yep.
Most of the time. You could be the biggest fan of Dan Slott's Spectacular Spider-Man that lives on this earth. You could buy every single variant for issue 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And your money would have zero influence on whether or not that book continues. Can you imagine how fucked this industry is when what I just said is absolute fact?
Yeah.
You did not help Dan Slott at all by just buying the book. You have to go pre-order it first in order for your dollars to matter, because the real person who's the purchaser is the retailer, not you.
Mm-hmm.
Not only do you have to pre-order it before, you have a time limit that you don't know about.
Right.
Yeah.
If you pre-order it the day after that, well, you fucked up.
You fucked up.
Final order cutoff. What the fuck does that mean?
Yeah.
What does that even mean if you're not tapped in?
I had my comic shop the other day. He's like, oh, and then there's FOC date. If you don't know what FOC date is, I can explain it to you. And I'm like, I know. But it felt like a script was about to come out of him because it's something he has to describe constantly.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah.
I think people's reaction to this have been disgusting.
I also think it's a little bit of people who are still fucking pissed at Superior.
And I think
coming out the
that's
woodwork.
also
Yeah.
stupid. Like, you could not like it, and I get that. I read it and I liked it after years of
Yeah.
swearing it off. But you could not like it. But what does that have to do with a writer or a creator, trying to sell their book? Of
Yeah.
fucking course.
And even like within the video, because I did want to like go back to look at it. There is a section halfway through, a little more than halfway through, where a banner just pops up that says Dan Slott begs for Spider-Man orders. Like the narrative there is also dismissive.
Yeah. 100%. Common sense with a $9.99. Other channels done this because Slott's past controversies, while not ignored his past, but I find it dishonorable to be disingenuous. Slott addressed a problem with 5 to 10 issues. Look at Imperial.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's disingenuous for that to be the takeaway from Slott's interview. That doesn't make any sense. The only way that could be the part of this that you think is interesting is if you hate him. Or if you're a YouTuber, if you know that hating on him is what will bring the boys to the yard.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. Like for something ready for a clip, you know?
The three of us do what they do. We are YouTubers too. I know the game. If we put something on the thumbnail, that is the only thing selling the episode. So if you get Dan Slott crying on the thumbnail of your episode, that's going to bring in everybody who doesn't like Dan Slott. But we don't sell ourselves like that.
Yeah. Good dude too. I've met him a couple times. Like, he's pretty chill.
Of course. All these people are fucking chill. It's the people watching these videos who aren't chill. It's the idiots that grift who aren't chill. I have heat for all those channels. I don't say their names. I don't mention them. I'm not here to talk shit about specific channels, but you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, you don't want to rip them apart, you know.
It's bullshit.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine, dude? What a shameful way to put a creator forward like that.
I would argue they're being some of the worst fans of all time.
Yeah, dude. They're like, oh, the Dan Slott, what a beta cuck for coming to
Ooh.
cry about his low sales. Oh, blah, blah, blah. I did that so we can clip it, guys.
Oh, okay, I got it. Beta cuck, you were bringing out the ancient texts.
Yeah, yeah.
Aaron Ruiz, your interpretation is very generous. He says, I don't think people are saying it mostly because of Slott. They're wondering, why is Dan Slott, premium Spider-Man writer, asking for it? He shouldn't worry about that stuff. No, bro, that's not true. I don't think you should do this, but if you want to be educated on why we're talking about this, watch the videos yourself. They're not saying, there's a problem at Marvel. They're saying Dan Slott's a, I don't even want to, they're talking about him personally.
Yep.
Specific personal traits about Dan Slott's body that have nothing to do with comics. So that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
What does the weight of Dan Slott have to do with him asking readers to buy his book? Nothing. It's an unfair jab. It's an attack. Foxtastic says Dan Slott having to do this is a Marvel problem, not a Slott problem. Marvel has fucking problems, of course. There's no doubt about it.
Yep.
There's no doubt about it. There's a significant problem. And Kyle said it earlier. There has been a huge push in the comic space lately about pre-ordering an FOC. I'm convinced it's because of the shakeup in how Marvel wants to do things.
Yep.
Maybe part of the fallout from Diamond. That is a fact. DC don't have this problem. Not the same way. Why do we only talk about this with Marvel? Ah, it's frustrating, man. This stuff bothers me.
I just wanted to do a quick shout out, if that's cool, Sean.
Yeah.
So it's something that probably doesn't bother you, but Great Devlin sent us I guess a pals chat on Patreon on
Oh.
PayPal. He said, "Great Devlin, just supporting the cause, $10."
Thank you so much. That means a lot. I really appreciate it.
We gotta have a name for these
Yeah.
pals. We gotta keep going with the PP.
The PayPals.
Hey.
Pals pigs,
No.
What?
like pay pigs.
Someone accused us
Being-
recently,
Being pay pigs.
no, of
Grift.
Grift reporting about what the fuck was he mad about? Something that we reported about that happened last week. And my response was because it was something like buried in the episode that we were just like riffing on. And it's just like, dude, if it's buried in the episode, that's not how grifting works.
Yeah.
That's stupid.
Yeah.
If we wanted to grift,
It'd be a thumbnail.
it'd be a thumbnail.
Yeah.
It'd be the title. You could tell.
We could have had such a good grift on the Pride DC Pride event if we really wanted to.
Yeah. Oh, here's what it was. It was about Kingdom Come. It was about how
What the
we
fuck
were
did we talk about
speculating, which the internet has speculated for
Oh, yeah.
what year is this? For 40 fucking years. The internet has speculated about Kingdom Come and whether or not it was inspired by Twilight of the Superheroes, which was created by Alan Moore.
That's right.
So all we did was speculate about that, and this person says we're grifting. Get a fucking grip, dude.
And wasn't it like a half comment because somebody mentioned it in the
Yeah,
YouTube?
it was
Yeah.
it
In
was
the
a chat
chat.
response. Yeah, it
Yeah.
wasn't even
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a main thing.
Yeah.
Exactly. Come on. Get a grip on reality.
That's how easy it is. If that's how easy it were, dude. Psh.
Yeah, dude. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? If we did this shit for grift, do you understand how different this show would be? We don't need to go on and on about this. You guys know the deal. I'm preaching to the choir. I'll shut up. We need a couple more wheel spins, and then we're gonna play the woke game, and then we'll get you guys out of here.
Alex Ross stole the idea
Drink.
Oh.
All right, like
I'm all out of drink. Sorry.
See, that's why I'm armed with 3 cups, bro.
More drink? Is this weighted wrong?
yo, I'm drinking again because
Drink.
fuck it.
It's gonna turn into a piss one soon. piss.
Don't bring that back, bro.
Oh, I forgot
That
about
was a
that. Oh,
dark
no.
time. That was a dark time.
We'll do another one. Ah, okay, cool. Who wants Marco, it's your turn. You're gonna have to guess its character. You got 10 questions.
Oh.
Fun.
Only Marvel, right?
I'm so sorry. Yeah, it's only Marvel.
Right. Okay.
10 questions. Yes or no?
Is this character a mutant?
No.
Is this character a male?
Yes.
Is this character part of a super team?
Has been, yes.
That's a bad question.
Yeah, everyone's been a part of a team at some point.
I know, yeah. Is this a character that was created before 1970?
No.
She created characters created after 2000.
No.
Damn. Okay. Oh, okay. So somewhere in the middle. Is this a villain?
No.
Is were they ever part of the Avengers? That's
No.
another bad question. Oh, okay, actually. Are they based outside of New York City?
No.
Damn, that was a bad question. It's like 50,000 characters in New York, dude.
So he's from the 80s or 90s, right? That's what you narrowed it
Right.
down to.
Yeah.
Based in New York, never an Avenger.
A
Hero.
guy.
A guy. Not a mutant.
Not a mutant.
So the entirety of the MU was
that
still.
didn't really narrow it down that much.
Well,
You got two
can't
more
be-
questions.
How's the Avengers? Does this character have energy-based powers?
No.
Does this character have?
This is your last question.
Yeah. Does this character work with Shield?
No.
All right.
What was your guess?
My guess is Deadpool.
No. Sean, do you have a guess?
I
I will
have
say
one-
none of the
one-
chat is right.
One question.
Sure.
Is the character white?
No.
Is it Cloak?
No.
Who is it?
Miguel O'Hara,
Hey,
nice.
Spider-Man
Okay.
2099.
Nice. I
I
like
guess
that.
I guess he's half white, right? Is he Puerto Rican Irish?
I don't recall his makeup.
Is he my guy?
He might be. He might be the only one.
Yeah, he might be.
Oh,
that-
he's
very-
Irish Mexican.
Irish. All right. Never
Ooh, IMAX.
mind. Lincoln Square.
Oh,
All right. Do we need
shit.
another wheel spin?
We're good, bro.
Okay.
It's time for the Wote game. Let's do it. So you're familiar with the GOAT game. That is a game we play at the end of the show. If we reach the prerequisite amount of super chats, we play a game where we tell you why a character is the greatest of all time. Today, we're flipping this, and we're going to tell you why whoever it lands on is the worst of all time. Tyler, take it away.
All right. Who is it going to be?
Can't wait.
Just me.
Nice.
We haven't had that in a long while,
Yeah.
if ever.
Which character is it?
Who's the worst?
It's going to give me someone that's great.
It's gonna be like Magneto.
Oh, oof, it's Silk.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. When you start talking.
Cindy Moon, aka Silk, is the worst character of all time. Her characterization is so redundant and derivative of one of the greatest of all time, which is Peter Parker Spider-Man, that it becomes kind of a little too much. She is a direct cause of one of the more controversial Spider-Man stories, and that's the Moreland saga from JMS's run, and kind of is a continuation of the idea of the spider totems, which again, arguably some of the worst Spider-Man lore additions that has ever happened in comics. They only use her when they need her, if they need a team book or they need a diversity, and since then she's the worst of all time, especially out of the Spider-Verse characters.
So
That was so hard to do because I like Silk a lot.
chat has identified that you did this in Women's Month. This is the last episode of the show for Women's Month, and you took that opportunity to bash and disrespect the woman.
I had to play the
Wow,
villain,
Tyler.
guys. I'm sorry.
But I must say, as Marco gets the poll up, I must say I was heavily distracted the entire time by the fact that Marco was served bread,
Fresh bread.
fresh, baked fucking bread from his home kitchen. He was
Right.
served bread. If somebody served me bread, if someone served me bread that looked like that,
Yeah,
I would
good.
never let them go. I would do
That was-
anything
that
to
was
hang
good.
on to them.
Look at that. Look at
Look
that.
at that.
We got smell of
who's-
vision yet?
Guess who these are?
Yours?
Might be getting a delivery soon. Oh my god.
Yo, wait, what?
Oh,
For
not
real?
those.
Who's getting a delivery?
Who indeed? Who indeed?
Wait, is that for me?
My pals.
I'm not gonna be home.
Got some more bread.
Yo, I love bread so much.
It's so
What's your
good, dude.
What's your bread of choice? Like, not bread of choice. What are you putting on the bread?
I like raw bread. Like that,
Yeah.
what he just
Something.
held up. I would just cut that shit and
Slice.
just eat the bread raw, bro.
Okay, Jean Valjean. Jeez.
I love bread,
I'm-
bro.
I'm a-
Pretzels.
I'm a big fan of olive oil, red pepper flakes.
Yeah. Ooh. I do olive oil, bit of salt, and
Yeah,
then
salt too, yeah.
a black pepper cracked on top.
It must smell
If any-
real good in your apartment right now.
Dude, it's infecting the whole
Oh,
the entirety of it.
Mine
if
smells
there
like
are-
cat puke that I have to clean up. I haven't gotten to that I have during the show, so very different.
I just want to put this out there. If there are any eligible bachelorettes out there who are not that I'm eligible, but who are trying to cook bread, right, on a regular, let me know.
You
Let me
got
know. Let's hook up.
cheesy garlic knot. Oh,
No.
bread is so good.
Not cheese.
It's a poll up for.
It is.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Yeah. And you know what? You are
not doing well.
losing.
I'm
Yeah,
not doing
you're
well.
losing at all.
We'll let it run for just another
I
minute.
can't lie though. Like I do like silk.
You did your best, man.
I tried to
don't know.
grift too, man. I was like in my head, I'm like, all right. What would what would diversity in comics say?
Oh God. Oh no. Am I lactose?
That's
no,
crazy.
No,
Worse.
it's worse than that. It's not making them toot. It's making them croak.
Yeah.
Ooh, Electric's 2-minute grilled chevre cheese and drops of honey. Oh,
I love I love a little chevre, you know.
bro. And you know what? She's making butter from scratch. Like, so fresh made butter on top of fresh made bread.
I want to be asked. Nope.
Yo, that's arousing me.
There's a butter churn.
No!
There's a churn and butter joke here that I'm not making.
Atomic Hound said Ms. Hound wants to know what this segment is about. This is about me losing my mind at the fact that Marco's have you said? What?
Yeah,
Yeah,
fiance.
Yeah,
Fiance.
that Marco's fiance is fucking in the kitchen right now cooking bread.
Oh my god.
And let me tell
Well,
you
you're
something.
baking the bread.
Baking bread. Let me tell. Oh, here's another delivery. Look at this.
This is fresh buttermilk and freshly made butter.
Oh my God, bro.
How did she milk the butter?
Yo, you know what? Oh, I gotta send you guys a picture. I forgot to do this. She made, Raising Cane's. She made buttermilk chicken, Raising Cane's. Like, tried to like fry it up, and oh my god, it came out amazing.
Yo,
Sean's about to come over right now. He's
Ha-
gonna have
oh
the
my
Fred Flintstone
God.
running noise in a second.
Yeah, this show's over. I'm going over there now. I'm on V-Way. Yo, Jade, what is up?
Yeah.
Yo, Marco, look, you and I have history. We really like each other. I would say I
Yeah.
love you. I love you. All right.
Love you too.
Thank you. Now, Jade's great. I think Jade is fantastic. I could see how I could develop loving her down the road. So what I'm saying is, what I'm saying is, what if the three of us just love each other and she makes bread and various food stuff?
We were gonna. If you recall, we're trying to do some stuff in person collectively.
Yes, that's
Bro-
right.
Yo, she was gonna get a menu ready.
I'm trying to lose weight, dude.
Let's make it happen, dude. So that way you got fed and we get some content out of it. Well,
Marco,
well,
it's like-
we have a
right.
question for you in the chat from CW Gordon. He says, Marco, is your fiance single?
No, she is not. She is definitely not. No. Yo,
Not a
everybody-
palicule. Who said a palicule? No. Well, let's just say
This is the only.
no.
This is the only throuple that's happening. Is what you see on screen right now.
That's yo.
The jokes are a little more on the nose than you realize.
You know, I don't know how anybody stops watching this show early. You never know what the fuck is gonna happen.
Holy shit.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Oh, Tyler, you didn't convince you did not convince people that Silk was the worst, unfortunately.
You know what? I'm proud of that actually.
Yo, Marsha and the Torah. That's crazy, bro. I thought Marco was dating Kale. Remember that fanfic reading? Bro, that happened in real life. I don't understand. That wasn't fanfic, dude.
No, that was a transcript.
Yo, facts, Jay. Say, yo, come into the rescue. Facts, bro. That's my girl. She makes me bread. She makes me buttermilk.
Well, it sounds like she's making me bread too, bro, because you just said that there was a delivery coming my way.
There is,
and
yeah,
nothing is more exciting to me right now than that thought.
Man,
Yep,
Mama New's coming to deliver it.
It'll be over. I'm playing soccer in the city tomorrow, and I'm up in Harlem. So,
Oh, you're gonna deliver it personally?
yeah, bro. Yeah.
How could my life get any better? All I'm missing is an alt baddie.
All right, guys, that's the show.
All right, guys. Hey, we've had a ton of fun. Monday at 8 p.m. Eastern is the Super Sons Book Club. That is how we are capping off this month of Rebirth. And then after that, we are going to get up to some shit, guys. This next month is going to be nuts. So don't go anywhere. We've got plans for you all month long. I cannot wait to start sharing them. And I hope to see you all week. Monday, Pals Previews, Book Club. Thursday, Pals Pulls, 8 p.m. Saturday, right here, 10:15 a.m. No deep dive, but we will have a ball as we always do. Thank you for an incredible March.